Good morning, everyone. So today is July 31st, 2025, and this is a staff meeting of the Parole Board in Waterbury. And the first order of business is to review our agenda. Are there any suggested additions or deletions?
I don't have any.
MJ, you have nothing?
No, I am good.
All right.
I had a hard enough time with this agenda.
That's good. You did a good job. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion. We approve the agenda.
Second.
Seconded multiple times. All those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are 5 in favor and 2 absent. Hopefully, Tom Giffen is going to be joining us by.
He was supposed to join until 11.
Okay.
But
And Angela is not going to be here at this time anyway.
yes, I don't know what time.
Everyone had a chance to review the minutes from last month? Any corrections or additions suggested?
Fancy any. I'll make a motion. We accept the minutes as presented.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the minutes of June 24th. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are 5 in favor and 2 absent. Okay. New attorney, Lori, good morning.
Good morning. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Just wanted to introduce, this is Rebecca Ronga. She goes by Becky. Becky's our newest AAG. She's not new to the AGO. She's been with us a few years. She just came from the trial team for economic services from DCF. So she's skilled and already up to speed. She will be my colleague in relation to guidance to the parole board. And we'll be handling any appeals that come from the board. So just wanted to introduce her and bring her over. And I don't know if everyone wants to introduce back so that she knows who you all are.
Dean George from Middlebury.
And Samantha Drake from Waterbury.
Good morning, Mary Jane Ainsworth, MJ. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot.
Parole Vecchio, I'm the admin staff.
Good morning. Pat Boucher from Burlington.
Morning, Wayne Dangler from Canada. Take a U-turn and I'm right there.
Katie Aiken. And I've actually heard you quite a bit because I'm also on the Human Services Board. So we've had a lot of hearings together through there. So yeah.
Nice to see your face.
Yeah.
Oh, you want me to go? Oh, yeah. Oh, we'll do a lot of emails. I'm on the case staffing committee. Great. Yeah.
Gary Marvel, Deputy Director of Field Services. That's Matt. He's our boss. He's the Director of Field Services.
No.
Hi, Matt.
The boss is watching, huh?
It's like Big Brother.
Yeah, it is.
Anything that we need to talk about today, Lori?
No, nothing specific case related at this point. We had one case that was looming, but it's kind of been resolved otherwise. But no, other than that, I think we're status quo.
Thank you.
Unless anyone has any questions for us at this point.
I think we're good.
Excellent.
Great. Thank you. Okay, policy changes from corrections.
First of all, thank you all of Matt, Gary, and Cassie for your willingness to come join us and kind of go over some of these changes, because it's been kind of a difficult, as I've spoken to all of you, it's been a little bit of a difficult learning curve hearing it from the sites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Figure out which way we should go.
For sure. And I can start off, MJ, if that's okay, just with a couple things. And I'll let Cassidy and Gary kind of dive into the risk containment and RSN policy stuff. But I do want to point out and clarify the 10 business day waiting period that you folks had a question about. And I know that it was presented back, I think, about a month ago at your last meeting. And there was some questions after about when that's implemented and why. it's really the why is really a focus on public safety. And as you know, since January, there's been a lot. We have done a 180 with some of our policies and processes and the way we do business. It's been a tremendous lift. Case staffings have grown. The amount that we do now, I think we are currently at almost 270 case staffings since January. And those, run the gamut of placing people in programming to, RSN designations, risk containment designations, etc. So it's been tremendously busy for us. It's been a heavy lift for everybody involved. The 10 business day piece is really looking again at the public safety part of this, and it was really to address the short turnaround releases. It's once parole is granted, we are obligated to move these folks back into the community. But what we're trying to do with this is once that law enforcement and this is just RSN folks, this isn't all parole cases. This is folks that are designated RSN, where we want to give the community, law enforcement, victims, our partners, a digestion period where they can do final planning. Any issues can be worked out at the last minute. So that 10-day period would be implemented, or waiting period would be implemented once that LEN is sent to the community, to law enforcement. And really that's what it's about. It's really hard to explain, when we have to release somebody in such a short period of time. This all of a sudden is happening in your community. So that's what we're trying to avoid, and really trying to get online with this as far as keeping the community safe and everybody apprised of what's going on with a particular case. With that, or I hope that clarifies things.
I've had a couple questions come up, just for a point of discussion, a little bit from POs around approved housing condition for RSN cases.
Yep.
Because of to allow some of this, we are holding the parole agreements back anyway, but I just wanted to pitch that out I didn't know what all of your thoughts are, what the board's thoughts are around an approved housing condition for RSN cases.
Well, we support it broadly. If we're saying they're RSN, we're saying that because of their history, their risk score is some combination of that. We want to keep a close eye on them. It's really hard to do that when we don't have an approved residence condition. It's also really difficult to ensure that we're following the governor's direction to attend to the things like, are they near services? Are they near the necessary supports they're going to have or need in the community? So without that, they're kind of in the wind. And, this is backed up by some of the experiences we've had in the last decade or so when we've tried to release people, high needs, high risk, that didn't have those conditions or requirement. You'll probably remember 808F, the statute around furlough, where we basically had to release people even if they didn't have housing. We had terrible success rates with those individuals. They just need that level of structure. And we're of the position now that if they're RSN, we feel we need that as well. So as much as you can support us in that direction, please, for all of our sakes.
So when we get a parole summary, I think most of the time we determine that it is an RSN case if it is. And a lot of times the condition 16 for us, which is the approved housing, is requested. And if it's not in the report, it'd be really helpful in the request to say condition 16 in part because this is an RSN case.
Yep.
So
we can message
we
that.
know that.
We can message that. Yep.
The other thing that we are trying to do is be mindful of the fact that a lot of cases that have that condition wait for housing, obviously, for extended periods of time. For the ones that we see that are in the community, and a lot of times it's just for a short period of time, they've got an approved housing, they're doing well, so forth and so on. It makes it easy for us to transition them into parole. And we're kind of staying away from the mandatory housing at that point, simply because they're in a position now where that's where they are and they're doing well.
Mm-hmm.
So as we go down the road, do we need to have that in place, even if they are an RSN case? Something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we might not agree on every case. I mean, there's definitely times where we're going to recognize. I would say that, the issue that we run into sometimes is that when people start to decompensate, they get out of treatment, they start to have the normal conventional issues that you run into when you're on supervision. Without that condition, it's very difficult for us to ensure that they're not getting themselves into a situation where they're going to destabilize. So, broadly speaking, we're probably going to want that. But if, the board decides to have it.
There are a lot of obvious types of cases. Certainly the sex offenders and the aggravated DVs and that kind of thing are absolutely necessary. But some of the other ones where they're either substance use issues, which they're dealing with and that kind of thing, we're trying to keep that open-ended so that if that is not required for some reason on our view, and it allows them to be more successful, try to look in that vein. At the same time, recognize that if it is an RSN case, there's other issues that need to be considered.
Yeah, I mean, we can understand that position, and like you're trying to balance out what's needed versus, what we're comfortable with. I will say that the housing, generally speaking, people tend to do better on supervision when they have that stable housing, and the different populations kind of need them for different reasons. Sex offenders, it's usually public concern about not knowing where they are. DV, so they're not stalking people. We can institute a curfew. With the substance misuse population, their chances of absconding are higher when they don't have a residence, because it's a very slippery slope.
Yeah. From
I'm just staying on a couch tonight to I haven't seen my PO in 2 weeks. So, it's really for them more than anything. But it also just makes it easier for us to do what we need to do to track them. So.
Good.
And from a litigation standpoint, we haven't been overturned in relation to the housing condition, despite the problem in Vermont with housing in general, and then adding on these individuals, speed bumps. But so far, the judiciary, as long as there's effort shown by the department to work with the individual to find suitable housing and support that, the judges understand that takes time. So far, just from a litigation perspective, we haven't been pushed back on that. We have a number of people file cases on that.
Good.
So just for
the
judicial perspective on it.
And I don't think, and that, you correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we're maxed out on transitional housing resources use either, right? We have, you're kind of at an advantage being under supervision, in that we at the last ditch effort, we can always divert people to some other part of the state to get into a transitional housing grant. We're not maxed out. If we were, I'd say we'd be having a different conversation, because it's at that point, we don't have an option.
Well, that's good to hear.
So they might have to move, but sometimes that's a good thing too. So
in a lot of cases, it's better for them. Yeah. Good.
So I'd consider that as a something in your calculus when you're thinking about that condition as well.
And when you think about and how we are reviewing these cases, the 348 community supervision policy has been updated, and it's A through K, I don't know, or even J, I don't know. But where we are probably paying more attention to that public safety and access. So when you see those denials and then you see the request for modification, because I've been sitting in jail, I think that's a big, probably a big hurdle for the parole board to just be well, why are they still there? Is that we're paying more attention to ensure that documentation is in place, that we're meeting those standards within a full residence investigation. So when having that, we're able to do that investigation, which can take up to 10 days.
Sure.
But also, it could take longer if we can't get a hold of landlords. And
Right.
knowing the scrutiny around these releases right now, Department of Corrections is definitely reacting and ensuring that documentation is there to support any argument if we were to go into litigation. So if the board needs to review it, I mean, it takes into account safety and security, public safety, proximity, all of that stuff. It's
Sure.
outlined in 348. They'd probably give you the page numbers. I was just looking at it.
So for someone who's approaching the release time.
Yep.
His foot just touched it. Dean's.
My foot?
Yep.
Sorry.
Can you get it?
MJ's throwing cell phones already.
No, he caught the cord for the yelling.
I got Big Pete. So anyways, a lot of times we'll be listening to an offender describe where they'd like to live, this kind of thing, and that they can't
What's up?
get a hold of anyone because of the restrictions of them in the facility to propose a residence. So how does that process work?
I feel that's slightly probably manipulative.
I'm sure it
their
is.
side,
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
I feel like there's
Yeah.
really good effort, and I think, and would love to attest that the facility staff and the field staff, they're really doing amazing work. And they really are setting that information. Yes, could we be better about communication? I mean, Dean, you've been doing this for how many
I
years
know.
in the breakdown. So I'm not saying anything that you don't already
Yeah.
know and or experience, but that's happening.
Yeah.
They have to put in a request to see their caseworker, and then it's submitted, and then it's thoroughly investigated.
Good.
So it's like those things are
And
happening.
it's not because they can't call out and get a hold of somebody or,
No.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Good.
No. I mean, we're even upgrading to tablets. They're going to have all sorts of abilities that's coming.
Yeah.
They'll probably do their own applications at this point for BHA or any of those housing opportunities that aren't, the transitional housing, which we hope, and maybe it'll open it up more. But within that, when we're looking at reentry, I think what the board maybe is feeling as well is that we've RSN'd and started looking at risk containment in 6 months. So we've seen a tremendous, as Matt said, 270 cases in this increase. So you're feeling like that also that rush. We've designated them. You're like, whoa, they were eligible. Now what do we do, right? We're kind of in that same practice. Once things smooth out, once we get into an operation, maybe another 6 months, you'll start seeing and or receiving reports from case staffings. If they've been RSN'd, and in the perfect world, they're coming to see the case staffing committee 60 days from their projected release date. And there we make that determination if we're going to do provisional release planning. If we do that provisional release planning, then we will know, and our directive requires it, if they're receiving a positive recommendation for parole. So that's when you can get that information. When somebody comes in and they're on furlough, again, we also have to do a final release review to ensure that we're meeting those public safety pieces, housing, supports, and also the individual. You guys have been doing it for a while now with your questionnaire.
yes.
We're kind of now bringing that into those furlough releases too, of how are they going to be accountable to their own plans? What did they take from programming? So in some ways, it's very similar to your own process, but we're just having higher scrutiny around it, being I mean, you guys, I think this was the first year I heard you actually denied parole for somebody we had 4 cases, was it, Mary Jane, that are no longer eligible for parole?
Yes.
So, and Department of Corrections is looking at that the same way. How many times are we going to release them and they're going to abscond?
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at it. Okay, so what is going to be different? They're like, I'm just going to go back to mom's. And we're like,
Yeah.
no, that hasn't worked the last 4 times.
Right.
We're trying to get out of rubber stamping that
Yeah.
10% of the population that just hasn't gotten it yet and are recidivated.
Sure.
Yeah.
One thing I will also add is, the population, we always have to remember the population has changed over the last 10 years. 70% roughly of our folks are on Medicaid assisted treatment, so have some kind of opiate disorder. So a lot of times when
It's
they want to go
huge.
to a private residence,
Yeah.
it's because they want to use again. Transitional housing, they can't do that, so that is another thing to consider when there's maybe some manipulation going on or resistance to going, to transitional housing versus a private residence. So you might want to, that's just worth exploring for each
Yeah.
case.
The case staffing reports are really important.
Yep.
They typically we see them when we have someone that's on an interrupt, but
Yeah.
in addition to that, for any of them that are done for RSN cases.
So those are not getting pulled for you
Well, no,
on a regular
what
minimum?
happens is if we see it in the report mentioned, then one of us will ask MJ to see if we can get that. And then then she'll find it and put it in the folder with us, so we get to review it.
So because there are RSN, I mean, I would default to ask Matt, like how that we can talk about that process if there are RSN and or being considered for risk containment specifically, because we'd like to see happen is that someone's sentenced, we've evaluated, we're like, no more, you're getting, you know, we're going to put this designation on kind of a red flag to say, slow down, let's see how we can really do this right, and their accountability. And then once that designation is made, say they go back out and they do it all over again in their RSN, well, at this point, we might consider looking at them for risk containment, which is, again, another layer of like, okay, slow down. Let's look at this and really ensure that this is where they're going to be. Is it more programming? Have they exhausted that program? Because if you look at the RSN criteria, we're saying that they no longer can be supervised in the community.
Safely.
So, and safely, based on their criminal history, based on their inability to internalize any sort of programming, both in the field and in the facility. So it's like at that point, okay, it's kind of like, I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to figure it out. And that's kind of where the board is sick. But those case staffings you should be able to get that RSN.
We do, if we find that they're mentioned in the report.
But I think where we could get better is probably the messaging of like, if they're going in for their minimum, not recommended based on their RSN case staffing, that could be referenced for you to then see what's DOC doing.
But there's good information in there that doesn't.
Yeah.
So what happens is the way that the summaries, we used to get them a little bit more back when staff would print them out, but now that it's in OMS, I think a lot of staff, because it says yes at the top of the parole summary, think that the report's more intuitive and that the case staffing will be pulled over, which it's not. It's supposed to be uploaded to the attachments tab of the parole hearing tab. And so the board is really good at just asking, and I'll pull up especially the last one because sometimes it gets convoluted, the history.
Yeah. Well, and so what I'm hearing though is that this problem isn't actually the policy itself or disagreements. It's more of just a training of, ensuring that all the information is up. So that if we're giving good messaging at the lowest level, then it comes up and you're able to make sound decisions around those RSN or risk containment. Because the risk containment classifications, those, and I'll tell you, Lori here has given us lots of kudos in the last 6 months of those case staffing forms are getting better and better.
Yeah.
Like staff have really stepped up since this kind of big push of like, we need that documentation.
Well, we just restaff it.
Yeah, or we're like, you don't get to have it.
We're like, okay, we're just going to do this again next week until we get the right form.
Yeah.
That's basically how
Well, there's a lot of coaching going into it. I will tell you that.
Yeah.
I feel like I go back and forth.
That's good
a
to
lot.
know.
But I think there are bigger policy questions too. And I'll just speak out. I'm hoping that others here that have had all of these policy questions will also speak out. That this is just what I'm hearing from the board members, more around kind of what is being taken in consideration for these RSN and risk containment, just kind of going over the general. I think you went over some of that. I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing back here. We've got the fan down, but that side of the room is a little quiet this morning. And then I think also a question that's come up recently in a hearing was somebody was, I think, case staff basically to max out. And the question the board had around was, is there any opportunity for any case planning or potential release prior to the maximum or recase staffing? Kind of like the old, especially around risk containment cases, I'm reverting back to the old level C, where generally it was 6 months before your max. Some of that case management work will ramp up in a possible release. I think that was some of that. So I'm just posing some of what I've been hearing.
So every 12 months, we're reviewing them regardless, if they ask for it to be reviewed.
Risk containment. Right.
Mhm.
Risk containment can be reviewed every year.
Nobody gets just like shut down. I mean, if circumstances change, if I'm trying to summarize what we're looking at in making these decisions, it's a combination of their offense history, of course, but really how have they responded? What has been their track record? So a lot of what we had in the past was that we would release someone they'd have it in a violation. We would try an intervention of some kind, risk reduction programming, something like that. They go out, exact same behavior, something similar, sometimes worse. We program them again. And then so we've done that rinse and repeat over and over again. If we don't have an intervention available, what we're basically at a point now is we're saying we're not going to just keep repeating the same interventions. Either we come up with something different and we're willing to entertain those, or we have you have a timeout until something manifests. I mean, we just simply can't, in good conscience at this point, sign off on a release when there's been no change to the pattern of violation and intervention. So what we're really looking at, I mean, we're looking at a bunch of things that are all in the policy, but that's kind of all encompassed there, and also like resources.
When you do that, it's an annual review. Do you update your reports? Or?
We have to, the classification director reviews it, and if he thinks there's something changed, then we can staff it again. We haven't gotten to that point because we just changed these policies, but like that will be the pattern. Like
April.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm just thinking out loud as when we see these folks again, we would be looking for if there's some update or not. And,
especially in record reviews. I would hope that
the
work is being done to say like no changes reviewed by classification or request went in for classification.
That would be really helpful.
And that's going to have to be, again, a teaching point of how we can evolve the parole, what's being reported, I think.
I think the way we used to do it, and probably the way where that's going to happen this time, is that the last case staffing form gets updated by the classification director to say the case was reviewed and if anything's changed. And that might be the person, has been involved in some sort of intervention in the facility, or there's a new program available to them that we're going to try. So
good.
Yeah.
Would it be helpful to go through like each, like what is considered, like we have A through G.
Sure.
I feel like I know it. Matt might have to help me the first one is about the crime itself is A. I don't have it in front of me. I apologize. I should have brought it. So like that's with those assault and robberies. Those are the manslaughter cases. That may not hit the assessment level that would automatically give them a designation of RSN. But those are then we start looking at the affidavits involved. If it's a DV and they're just convicted of a domestic, but there's strangulation in it, that can elevate the egregiousness of the crime. And if they have 5 domestic violences, again, wouldn't necessarily make them designated IPV, high IPV, but has a continued history, the egregiousness of the crime. B is, Matt, do you have it? B is...
I'm pulling it up here. Sorry.
I usually spit them off.
Unprepared.
And I can also print a copy of all the policies off for the board to take with you later today. If you like.
So one of the things that comes to mind is, first off, I'm going to apologize to the group. And my apology is this. I should have been more on top of making sure that messaging was delivered to you folks, our stakeholders in this area. I will preface that with, since January 1, we have been just completely overwhelmed. And no excuses, but that's the environment that we've been in. And I think what I would like to do is possibly, and I don't know if this is helpful, I know we're having discussions here today about this, put together some type of mini training for you folks, if that would be helpful. And I'm just throwing that out there. I don't mean to interrupt kind of the conversation that's going on now, but to do a deeper dive into some of these things, so that you're clear on what exactly we're doing.
I think it would be helpful, Matt. Yeah. We encourage that sort of thing, and we try to do our training and combine it with our staff meetings on a variety of issues that come up. So absolutely.
Okay. All right.
There are a number of topics that we've been interested in. ICOTS, for example, we've been talking a lot about that recently.
Yes.
Another one that, maybe we can get into a little bit today is programming. It's a key part of our decision-making framework, and we're seeing fewer and fewer folks in programming, particularly in the facility. And so we're trying to adapt where we're going with this, particularly if we're putting them in the community. Are we mandating programming there that we couldn't get for them in the facility? sometimes there is programming in the facility and they're removed from it for one reason or another. And we try to delve into that to find out what's going on.
Yep. Understood. So I think that's something we can do. And, what comes to mind is probably we could have the case staffing, the entire case staffing committee, or just a couple from and come in and answer some questions around all this for you and train you up. So anyway, we'll work on that, and that'll be something that we could probably do in a fairly short period of time.
Sure.
And so Matt, just to kind of follow up on that, we meet the last Thursday of every month,
Okay.
generally in person until the winter for teams, but we try to keep the same general schedule. But
Okay.
if need be, we can do a different day and time. We can be flexible.
Alrighty. Nope, that's good. Good to know.
So just for purposes, it's an education session, not a training session, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Thank you.
Statute review.
Thank you, sure.
Yeah.
Thank
It's always nice to have a lawyer here.
Great. Other thoughts or questions from folks? Wayne?
10-day waiting period. That's after we've granted parole?
It's when
Yeah,
the
sure.
law patient is.
Why?
Do you want to tackle that one, Matt, or do you want?
So sometimes when parole is granted, finer details aren't worked out, and we have not been able to give the community or law enforcement or even victims in some case proper notification of the final release and what that's going to look like. An example would be a person is set to go to Burlington, who's been paroled, has a housing condition, everything's been checked, but at the last minute, things fall apart and this person now has to go to Rutland. I think we can all agree that giving the communities and everybody that's kind of involved with the case or affected by the case, some time to digest and plan. 10 business days seem like a decent amount of time. That's a 2-week period if we factor in the weekends. Not everybody works on weekends, and when notifications go out, things could get missed. So we just want to make sure we're capturing everything or everyone that we can to get that notification out. And
What happens when you get negative input back from law enforcement, the community, or whatever? Then what happens in that 10-day period?
That happens now, sir. And we still move forward, and that may happen. But again, I would look at that too as in some cases a cooling off period where the shock and awe happens, and now there's time to digest and plan. It's going to happen either way. But again, there's time for folks to actually think about it, and that itself can be can calm the situation, if you will.
And if I
Well,
may,
I'm just wondering if the horse is behind the cart in this, because under our new SDMF stuff, we have 3 categories we consider. One's
Yep.
case-specific factors,
Mhm.
victim consideration, and community considerations. So I'm wondering if maybe this ought to be done before we consider.
But Wayne, they don't
Granting
always bring
parole.
people forward that they support in parole, and you grant them parole anyway. So they're not going to bid against themselves and do everything preemptively, wondering what you're going to do.
Okay,
So-
but when the sky's falling, and I'm sure it's going to be a rare event, but when the sky is falling in this 10-day period, we come back for a rescission hearing. What happens?
Well, that's a possibility.
It's an option.
We have one in litigation right now that's exactly what happened. The individual was on the cusp of walking out.
But if we had this input prior to making our decision, wouldn't we be better informed to make the decision?
But if they're not planning to have this individual and they do not support this individual being released into the community, why are they going to do that work just for your parole process at this point?
And what about those cases that you decide to parole that the Department of Corrections doesn't support being paroled? Those are those cases too, where we wouldn't have that in place.
That's what you're talking about.
Where that wouldn't be in place ahead of time. So I'm a little confused kind of where you're going with this, Wayne, because you're kind of contradicting your actions a little bit with what you're saying. So I'm just trying to follow along. Because sometimes I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying, if all of a sudden corrections is going to make this grand outreach to law enforcement, the community, and then get negative input back, and then take a step back and say, well, we really don't think he should be on parole, but he's on parole. So, okay, so now we have a decision hearing.
I think 9 times out of 10, we're going to get negative. The community's going to give negative pushback 9 times. Like, I can't imagine a community jumping for joy saying, yay, so.
I guess it's,
I mean, having that input, I don't know how I don't know how much we're going to factor that in.
These are RSN cases.
Yeah.
And if we've granted them parole and there's a 10-day waiting period and there's issues that come up, I think there should be a rescission hearing based on it.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's that bad, if they're coming back with that.
Because they haven't signed their
Cassidy,
paperwork
you
if you're
had
doing a
something
10-day
you wanted
waiting.
to add.
Well, I think getting stuck about this once they've been granted parole, I think looking at this, that 10 days, as if we have to pivot, Department of Corrections pivots all the time, that you have to trust in the process that if a community responds, we're going to send in our negotiation. Is there a way based on the conditions you assign to mitigate that risk?
Yeah.
If it's a victim who blows off because we just notified them they're granted parole, we sent out the LEN who hits WCAX, you mean that case? That maybe then we can do and utilize the tools that we do have. It doesn't mean that they're not getting out. It means that it allows us time to mitigate and pay attention to risks that we may not have already assessed.
Yeah.
Because we're always going to have those cases that blow up. And the worst case scenario, they're granted parole without that housing condition and their RSN. We will send in the recidivism when the community blows up, because that's actually protecting you and it's protecting the Department of Corrections. Because I think we can all agree, like, the last thing we want is all of us on the news.
So there are very few cases that come up like, and the ones that do, and I think this Briette case is a good example of how things went well. Because we had a very powerful victim statement, which we had heard several times, and we had interviewed this person several times, and the department had done its due diligence with this person. And after many years with an approved residence. And so, yes, the victim was very public about their concerns, but it was very easily defended on our part and on your part as to the circumstances. Well, and as you can see, the story is no longer a story.
Yeah, I mean, it's gone. Yeah. And to add to that case specifically, DOC pivoted because of the community, like the response from another community partner, and not allowing it, that the office in their own autonomy, without any oversight, which is good, right? That's what we want, was able to find another housing at no fault of the individuals to place. But when that pivot, just because they now identified a housing, we need that 10 days to then notify that community, because we're not saying they're not getting out. Right. We're just saying, give us time so that we can mitigate that high risk. And to note that these are only cases that are high risk. These are only the RSN cases.
Right.
And
one more. Oh, sorry. I don't want to interrupt.
I think we're confusing the 10 days a little bit, because I think the 10 days really only comes into play when there's no approved housing condition. Because when there's an approved housing condition, we don't get involved in the release. Just to use Briette as an example, we approved him. He was granted for parole a year ago. So we've been letting the department do their thing. So the 10 days is really the biggest factor is when we don't give that approved housing condition. And we're giving that professional courtesy to the DOC to allow for their notifications and the community notifications and so forth. So I just wanted to clear that up.
Perspective, yeah.
I wanted to clear that up a little bit because we don't get involved when there's an approved housing condition. We may monitor the case a little bit. We may see them if the individual asks for the condition to be removed, like we saw Bruyette many times because of that. But I just wanted to throw that out there because I think we're blending it all together when I don't think it necessarily should be blended all together.
And I would advocate that 10 days also supports any reentry work that you're looking at and for. You're wondering, like, if you give department, you choose to parole a case that Department of Corrections says no, because whatever the case, our reasoning, I'm not going to say whatever because Cassidy said so, but that information, a case is then paroled. We kind of need a little leg room to be able to ensure that they have their services, which includes applications for basic needs prior to kicking them out the door. If you parole them at 11 and you want us to release them at 1, we're not able to secure identifications. We're not able to secure, food. And so that your 5 basic needs that we all need, we can afford and do that release planning in that. And that's been a big also push from the department, is paying attention to reentry work.
And I want to also point out something just from the middle perspective, not on either side of the coin. When the topic came up of having everybody set up and everybody ready to go at their minimum, that's not always possible. And if everybody was set up and ready to go and walk out the door, 9 times out of 10, you'd be seeing them on furlough, not seeing them on parole like you did in the past. So I just want to put that out there, that it's not always capable. From everything I've learned in my experience, it's not always practical to have all their appointments set up, have all their providers, all their housing, everything set up when they're meeting with the board. But have they been working on this plan? Yes, but it might take some more time to develop it. I just wanted to put that out there too, because I think that often is forgotten in some of this.
Yeah. I don't often think about when I'm on a team that grants parole. I don't think about what the transition is for that person. I'm not concerned as much about that. It's more the conditions when they go out there, and then DOC is going to determine the timeline for that to happen. It's good to understand the 10-day waiting period, that it, in large part, is a result of not having the required approved residents.
That turnaround is just, and the push, I don't think it's of the intent of staff to delay.
No.
You know what I mean? That's definitely,
yeah.
That's definitely not the case, but to have that, a little breathing room to ensure that somebody has even basic needs when this is individuals who are marginalized socially, economically, you know what I mean? To have that period of grace. To also complement the push on public safety and to complement all the other new initiatives that are coming through that we're all facing at this point. But
I also think without that, it turns it into emergency.
Yeah.
Yes.
It feels like everybody in the system feels like it. Also, it's like an urgent thing. It increases anxiety for everybody.
Yeah.
For law enforcement, for the parolee, for the caseworker, the PO, like everyone's just kind of feels like they need to get them out 3 days ago, like that's kind of the vibe. I wanted to offer, Wayne, sir, I wanted to say that I think your structured decision-making tool actually has a lot of the same features as what we use for our criteria for RSN in the first place. So I would offer that, if you look at the case staffing, we actually indicate what criteria we picked for RSN. And it's very similar to what I was hearing and what I've seen in these SDMs is like, you got the seriousness of the offense, the offender's prior history of offense, the characteristics such as prior treatment responses. Mm-hmm. So adequacy of community resources, whether they've indicated a credible evidence that they're going to reoffend, like they say, when I get out, I'm doing X, Y, Z, public safety or victim identified as concerns, and then strong community sentiment, anger, or fear about the individual being released. So it's very similar to, I think, what you're operating from as well. We've just taken some time and resources to identify if those things are a factor.
That's one of the big reasons it's so important to have that case staffing report as part of our report.
Yeah.
Because it answers a lot of those questions that aren't in the parole summary.
Well, one of the things we can do is we do have it coming up. MJ's coming to COT. We'll be talking about, we are doing a crossover between the LUS and the supervisors. We have 2 coming up in this fall where I'd invite MJ to come and talk about those importance of and clarifying the submission of those parole violations and like hearings and stuff, which we could always get better at.
Yeah.
Just as we navigate. So that's an option too to explore.
The programming piece, that's a challenge at times for us, because when we determine by our assessment that there's a risk that needs to be addressed by programming, and then in that category where none is offered, we're struggling with, do we make that an aggravating selection or a mitigating one when it's not their fault that they don't participate in programming? But from our review, it looks like the risk is there to have some type of programming. How do we mitigate that with what DOC is offering them?
We've changed our posture on that. Up until fairly recently, really since these changes, it used to be if we can't do the whole module, we didn't do it. It was the feeling was that it was better to do
Something.
the feeling from the developers of a lot of the interventions have this perspective that it's essentially a continuous curriculum. So if you don't complete the curriculum, they don't want to sign off on it. Our posture has changed out of necessity. More recently, we've said, look, we have to have some sort of intervention to give them whatever skills we can possibly give them. So unless the time frame is extremely limited, like for example, we get splits on probation sometimes where they give them like a month. We can't do anything in a month, but if we get just shy of, we're going to try to do something to intervene. We've also pulled people out because they've been risk contained. We've changed our posture on that very recently because their thinking is, well, they might still get out and they're still going to max someday regardless. So the intervention should probably be in place if they're willing to do it. So what we have to look for is their willingness. And if they're willing to get back into the seat, we're generally going to allow that.
That's great.
Is
That's a very recent change, yeah.
Is there some also some out of the box thinking in terms of like if there's these standard programming things that have been in place? So that's great. We're looking at, if you can't complete the whole module, but what about looking for new interventions?
Right.
Ones that may be, that may have come out since then that really sort of look at more of a different timeline and more of a different, way of going about offering some intervention. Is there?
I don't want to,
new approaches.
I don't want to get ahead of my skis, but I would say that, we're always looking at whether or not the interventions have gotten stale. And I think there's a general sense that we do need to give a look at how we're programming people inside.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing we're struggling with is that the number of providers in the community continues to go down. So we're looking at alternatives there. I've been looking at alternative types of contracts, like no cost contracts for sex offenders who can't do group for whatever reason, so they can do telehealth online. We've been looking at, not just us, but the DV Accountability Council has been looking at alternatives there with restorative justice approaches. So it's happening. It's just not I can't say it's a holistic, comprehensive, system yet, but we are looking at trying to find ways that like shorter term modules, maybe for people that, are only going to be with us for a few months. Those kind of things.
Yeah. Or even some new dynamic approaches and ways of giving the information for people that might not do well with the standard type learning,
right?
Of sitting in a classroom being lectured, like different types of dynamic ways of looking at,
right,
at getting that. And then also, we see a lot, yes, with the substance use, but often that substance use goes hand in hand with mental health. So, is there any sort of, are you also seeing that?
Oh,
Like the
absolutely. Comorbidity is, yes.
With the core, and how to maybe approach some of that in the programming.
One of the challenges is that if you're actively using, it's really hard to, like most clinicians will tell you, if a guy's high in the seat, what can I do with him? It's like
That's what I do. I'm a clinician.
Yeah, okay.
So I see it. Yeah.
So it's like you got to get that under control. Same thing, but then it also goes sometimes.
Well, and that's when being incarcerated is a perfect time because they're not out in the community actively using. So that's the perfect time to really sort of address some of that, if at all possible.
That's one of the drivers behind our MAT program and why so many people are in it. You know, so to alleviate that so they can focus on criminal checking.
And the other thing too, I see with a lot of offenders in front of me is there's a pretty significant trauma history. So, incorporating that too.
I got
some ways.
I got some ideas to pitch to my director in a few months.
Great. I'd be very
for community stuff.
Very interested in hearing some of those.
Yeah.
Tom, how are you?
Oh, sorry, I had trouble signing on. I'm doing okay in the rainy southern section of Vermont. It's interesting, the RSN cases, because again, when I was my years in corrections, we had like a handful of RSN cases, so it's interesting to see what's developing. One of my concerns is, and I had a case recently in the state where a guy has a 20 to life sentence, and he's been in jail for 20 plus years, and there's no program for him. And so his very verbal comments to a very emotional comments, but basically corrections has me here to die. And I've had several cases where there's no program for them. There's level C and RSN. Is there any plans for these people, or what is it? To hear every year to hear their cases say corrections says we have no plans for them, we have no program for them. Is that, and they're level C and they have a long sentence? Is there a plan in place to address those people?
Yeah, that kind of goes to what I was saying about we very recently changed our posture on offering programming for folks that with the expectation that they're going to get out someday regardless. The challenge we're running into right now, and we're going to have to look at how we want to accommodate this or deal with it, is that the wait list is getting longer and longer. So we haven't quite figured out how to adjust our resources to meet the need of the number of people that we're feeling we got to put through programming. But I can say that you might get a different answer from that individual a year from now, that we might have gotten that process started, hopefully. But we're trying to focus more on making sure that if they're willing to do it and they haven't done it many, many times, that's the one thing I'll ask too, is has he tried programming on multiple occasions? Because there is a point where we have to say maximum benefit gained. You know, if someone's done it 3 times and we're not getting any response, we do have to think about that wait list and who else could maybe take that spot and get them out. So that is a balance there. We'd have to look at the case to answer better.
Okay, thank you. And the other case, a couple of cases we've had recently, and they were RSN cases, and one was, I think MJ alluded to, it was maxing out in less than a year. And the answer I got from the PO was, we're going to case staff them. I said, okay, I can accept that. And I said, well, when are you going to case staff them? And the answer I got was basically about when he maxes out. Now, is this something that's going to be, I mean, I, as somebody on the board, I said maxing out is the last resort, but that's something that's with some of these RSN cases, they're going to max out or case staff to max out. Is that the plan?
I'm trying to translate from what I'm thinking the PO might be thinking. So like I said earlier, he has the opportunity, the individual has the opportunity to be reviewed by the classification director every year once they're RSN. At the same time, I don't know what the time frame is for that person. What the PO might be saying is that if there's no request for a review or that doesn't line up with the time frame of when he was designated, then we would mandatorily be case staffing him for release considerations prior to his max out. So that might be what he meant. I don't know though, because I don't know the case.
I understand. I'm giving you shooting fish at barrel, but it was the intent to max out this guy. There was no question about that particular one. But so I mean, it's certainly going to be a learning curve for me anyway, and having been around for a while. But is the goal to have more people on RSN than not? Is that what's happening? Is that because of the classification? Is a plan? Is there the plan is to have more people on RSN because of the risk factors, or?
Yeah, I mean, going back to what we were saying earlier, I think we're trying to get away from rubber stamping releases. We kind of had this posture that, if someone got to the point where they hit their min, we would get them out. And even if it meant trying the same old thing over and over again, seeing that didn't work. We're feeling now that we have to have something in place where we're at a higher level reviewing this, so that we're not just rinsing and repeating. And also to notify people when someone's coming out and there's a high likelihood of victim or community issues, which we're seeing more and more of. So I think we're just trying to get out of that posture where we're having staff just go through release planning as a matter of course, whether or not there really was a good idea.
If I may, I also think, Tom, these aren't cases like non-listed VCR cases. These are cases of individuals who continue to commit new crimes, excuse my language, commit new crimes over and over again that have a level of violence and or are harmful. This isn't those petty larceny VCR frisky low risky, as I like to call them. I'm more street than have Gary's language, but these are to look. I don't know that it's necessarily something new where we added criteria that opens up the door to look at these cases that have violent offenses and or needs additional scrutiny around releases. We're not saying they're not getting out. We're just saying and ensuring, I remember reviewing an individual's case. She has no priors, but has been convicted of manslaughter. That's something that we need.
Be automatic.
Yeah, so that's an automatic. That necessarily doesn't mean she's not getting out. It just means we're going to take time and care into her reentry to ensure she doesn't come back and or continue that same behavior to recidivate.
Yeah, I was on that case, if I remember.
Tom, if I may add, it's good to see you again. I haven't seen you in quite some time. Always good to see you. Occasionally on the news, but
in a good way, I hope.
One of the things that we're looking at as well, and I know Cassidy mentioned violence and folks that are harming, and the petty larcenies and VCRs and all this, the things that we it's not that we don't look at it, but we haven't really looked at it. And I say that because it is larceny and petty larceny that shut down commerce in Burlington. That's harm to the community. And these are the things that we are really looking at. And it's not to for lack of a better term, fillet these folks that are out there doing this stuff, but we do have to take that into consideration. And it's not just violence anymore. It's what harm to the community is happening, and how can we, under us, it's our responsibility. These are folks under our supervision, and how can we respond in a way that's thoughtful, not only to the community, but to the person that we're dealing with as well, to mitigate this. It's gotten to a point, and I think we can all agree on this as well. It's gotten to a point where, some things need to happen, and change needs to happen. And that's really part of the focus as well, if not more than really the umbrella of where we're going with this.
So thank you very much for the explanation. The only last thing I have, and I'll shut up, is when we have a hearing, and this is not RSN or this and that, when I have a hearing and the PO says that except for that he has an interrupt, we would recommend them for parole, which confuses the heck out of me anyway. It'd be nice if that's something that could be addressed in training or with the PO, because when you hear that,
why they're saying that, I'm like, oh,
they do.
That's not unusual.
I think what's going on there is the criteria for parole is met.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the department has decided that their previous behavior, their most recent behavior, resulted in a significant violation. So I think they're trying to reconcile two distinct characteristics there.
I understand totally, but when a PO says, other than this, we'd recommend it for parole.
Yeah,
I would.
It's usually a caseworker, not a PO.
I would think Yeah, I feel like that might be a caseworker
Okay.
because of the behavior. They're doing really well in a structured environment
Yeah.
with little decision making.
And that's why it's been really helpful to have both the PO and the caseworker at a hearing, which happens a lot more now, which is great.
Yep. Well, and to speak to that, we are trying to support a more collaborative
That's a huge change.
look that requires both the PO and the CSS to be at all hearings for parole review. You know, in-person ones, obviously.
And we are
Thank
working
you.
hard to try to respect the interrupt process because we
Thank you. I'm glad you.
we have to go through our criteria as well and then look at why they're there. And it's challenging, especially when there's a short time limit. But good. Any other thoughts or questions, Sam?
Not ready yet. Maybe next time.
No, I'm all set. Valuable information today.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, reach out anytime.
Appreciate your time.
All right.
Thank you, Matt.
Hey, you're very
I'm-
welcome.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Matthew wants to talk about conditions.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I think Matt wants to say too.
All right.
For the
Then you don't get to go
conditions,
then.
We're just here to enjoy and support, just
We've been having a condition conversation in email, so I invited them to stay to join the condition conversation.
Well, we're sort of
Well,
done with that, but
Well-
we can certainly review it again.
we are done with it however, because of this is what I wanted to present to the board, a little bit
Okay.
of trying to reorder a
move into
little bit of what I have a copy
Okay.
of the reordering. Because all of the conditions are now in the offender management system, so I'm trying
Okay.
to work because they come through on the reports
Mhm.
and on the violations and so forth. So I'm trying to reorder these in a way that it's not a huge lift for the offender
Gotta
management system team
Okay.
as well, and for our staff, DOC staff, to potentially have to issue all new parole agreements or a ton of new parole agreements.
600.
Yes,
parole
at
agreements.
least, at
Let's
least.
just put that number right
Oh,
out
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
600 and something.
Yeah,
Because that's not including the HOTS folks.
Minimum, right?
Right.
and I have some things to add, MJ, and when you're ready for me to do that, just let me know.
Yeah, so basically what this document is just kind of going through it a little bit to just, what I did was I underlined the changes that the board made and struck out the changes that the board made. So that's the difference part is just where the numbers might line up. Where the board had decided that condition 11 was coming out the no associates, and we were going to put the no victim contact into that condition. However, we've already got the no victim contact in another condition. So I was looking at, why can't we just make that 14?
Mhm.
Because it's 14A right now. Instead of making it number 11. Is there a reason why it needs to be number 11? And
Well, I think we were merging it with the 15A as well.
Well, so I'll get there. So I'm
Hope so.
proposing that we get rid of 15A.
Yeah.
We're merging it as one, but why can't it just be 14? Is there a reason why we had to make it 11? And I
No.
don't see any.
No.
So then I was hoping maybe we could move up 17 to 11 to fill 11 spot. So that's just really what it is. It's just a reordering of the work that you already did.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's just reordering what you
Yeah.
did. It's not, it's
Yeah.
not
It's
any.
still there.
And then when I shared this with DOC, Cassie posed a couple questions, which we've discussed as a board before, but
Mhm.
I'll let, I suggested that if DOC would like to propose any conditions, to discuss conditions, that it would be a good time for them to join and we could allow some comment.
Sure. I think
You ready
that's the
for
only,
me? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
People
Yep.
are looking at me, so I wasn't sure. Yep. So Cassidy already kind of broke the ice on that. 619 parolees that we have. With that change of
over 1,000.
conditions, with the change of conditions, all the old conditions are going to have to be removed out of OMS potentially, and then rebooted with the new conditions. And I'm not going to talk too much about the whole OMS thing. It's not my expertise, so I don't want to get into a lot of the issues. But I do want to emphasize the workload that it's going to put on staff. And I understand that's your prerogative to change those conditions, and that's totally up to you guys. And we will do what we need to do. But what I would ask for is some time to be able to plan with our staff, considering everything that we have been going through since January. And I hate to throw that as an excuse, but we are in the midst of a lot of change right now. And just to give us an extended period of time. I'm not asking for 6 months, to be able to plan and make sure that everybody is messaged and what exactly needs to happen for this to go through and be effective and smooth. We have issues now, as you know, and it's now's a good opportunity to revisit some of these things. Sure.
Let me comment on that quickly, Matt, before you leave that, because I don't think it's our intent to change the conditions of people that are currently on parole. Those conditions will remain with them. The only time we update those is if they have a violation and we see them. Then we would update them to the newer conditions if that's the
problem. So this is what has been expressed to me as the problem with not updating all of those conditions, and this is what the OMS team has put out to me, and I think Mark Devins has, is that if we change our conditions, it changes the conditions in the system, which then breaks the violation it then breaks the violations section of the offender management system, because those conditions are no longer in the system. It's a complicated.
Can I add more to that?
Yes, go for it, because it's a complicated cycle.
So to support that, if you don't, you'll update the conditions as they come in for violations or things like that. So the people who are currently not on supervision, what would have to, if that's the case, when it was first presented, it was like, we're going to reissue all these new conditions, which would break OMS a little bit.
Which is the pressure that I have gotten from some other.
So if we were to, if you were to change just even the lettering, like 15A, 15B, those all have to be entered into the OMS to be checked off as new people are paroled, right? So then you have 3 sets of conditions. You have your very first set that we did when we did OMS. Then you have your second set, which we're operating off of now. Then you're going to have your third set, and based on just a change of a numerical or number, because not a lot of the language has changed with your sex offender conditions. So if we remove the old conditions, that's what impacts your violations, because they won't align.
Because the reports are all being generated out of the offender management system now. It's not a Word document like it used to.
Right. So it's not that we don't want you to change or evolve.
No, I get it.
We're just
trying to think of a way to make it easier.
Right, to make it easier. So even when some of the information I proposed to MJ was, even if you want to change 11, like some of these changes are super easy. They are going to be new conditions, like 7, 11. If you were to keep 14, it doesn't break the system. If you were to keep 15A, or just call it 15 and keep all the others 15B, 15C, that won't change anything.
Yeah.
And you can continue to operate as is without a heavy lift, because essentially then you're only asking to really evolve.
So if we, for example, if we leave 14A, if we leave that as 14 as we go forward, 14B and C that are currently being applied
would just be deleted.
Nope, they wouldn't be, because you
still have them.
Because you still have them. You're just adding, so it's easier to input like 2 conditions versus 17 conditions by changing from 15A to 15B. that change there adds that whole other layer of change of conditions in the system for staff then to be like, I'm going to click here, here, and here. And then I think that will really confuse everybody, not just staff, but also will impact your decisions.
So is the numbering of the conditions the easier way to deal with it then?
I think if I may,
Yeah.
it's just not changing the letters next to 15A, 15B, 15C.
Which we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just don't change those,
Yeah.
you only have to really update 2 conditions out of what was originally
it's the wording on some of the conditions.
Right, so that's why I'm saying the 2
Yeah.
conditions, 7 would change, so that would look
16.
different.
And 16's wording should change.
11 wording would change.
Yep.
And where did you?
Yeah,
put
the
16?
condition 7 change was basically responding to what corrections asked
Transitional
us
housing.
to do.
Transitional housing.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's, I'm not like, that's just a language,
Yeah.
but when you
And
look
it's-
at the other conditions, all you're doing is
So
changing the numbers.
would we then leave 15A in
No,
and have it repeated?
I would say you could,
yes. But you
because they're
just like,
specific to sex offenders and there's no harm, no foul.
Yeah, it's just repeating. We're trying to streamline it.
Yeah,
We
but
can
we can
turn-
ignore, but what
Yeah.
we could do is if somebody asks for it, just like right now, people are asking for both 14A and 15A.
I know. I'm putting it
So
Yeah.
just, I think we could just, you just apply it once.
I think that would be fine, but when you look at operations,
Yeah.
by removing it, how much work are you
No,
gonna?
I'm just saying if we leave
Or
it,
just, if they ask for it, you got it here, so
Yeah.
it's here.
yeah,
yeah.
you just apply, I think the chair would just apply it once and we would apply it once on our
Yeah.
paperwork. We wouldn't apply it twice.
Yeah.
And that would, and I don't know how, and this is something, in talking with Meredith, the perception around removing DV conditions. I would just challenge the board to, knowing the climate
Yeah.
right now, is to really process the perception around removing something that's so
See,
specific.
we didn't look at it as removing because when we looked
Yeah.
at these and we reviewed them with our training coordinator,
Yeah,
we said, we're already applying this condition
here,
here
yeah.
and here. Why are you doing it twice? Well, we're emphasizing that they're DV cases, but
and so then it's the challenge of the board. Is it easier just to say, okay, we're just not going to do it here because you have it here?
Yeah.
Or is it easier for the board? To me, it's perception. Okay, we're in a climate right now, we've got tons of DV people right now. They're going to see there's nothing specific to DVs, one of the highest population to re-offend conditions. So I'm just challenging it. I think
Yeah.
whatever you guys had in place, I absolutely,
we certainly do not want it to appear that we're not considering those serious.
you're right. And so when you remove the relief from abuse, like you shall not say they don't actually get charged immediately for a VAPO, but they have a relief of abuse, then we can react. Department of Corrections has the
Right.
ability to react. When you remove that, and I can see Lori's geared up. She's really excited.
Yeah.
That when you remove that, I don't know, we have to do better communication to staff saying if they're charged with a VAPO, then you can arrest. But if they're not charged with a VAPO and we have a victim statement saying that they walked through an RFA, we can't do anything.
Okay, that's not a violation of a court order.
Well, but that gets into a whole other thing,
Yeah.
right? And it could be a violation. So again, that comes into our education. But again, challenging the perception around by removing it, you're removing that kind of safety net of like, yes, we're paying attention to DVs, but
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah.
perception.
Got it.
I can
Yeah.
see Lori's like,
Yeah.
do you know?
This is always the difficult line. because
Yeah.
You get
Middle.
essentially, a couple clients sitting in the room.
So we're not saying that we don't want you to change or like evolve.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
saying like, oh, don't change just A, B, and C. That will eliminate a lot.
Thank you for telling
Bigger.
me that.
Yeah.
Like just by leaving A, I don't know, does it hurt? Or we go through this big rigmarole and
It doesn't hurt, certainly. For us, it's a matter of looking at it. If we're telling you these are your conditions, and our training is always focused on make your
Risk.
conditions
Yep.
risk-based
Yep.
and don't over-condition people.
Yep.
You're setting them up for failure.
Yeah.
So if we tell you one time not to violate any court orders, and then a few minutes later we say, And further, you can't violate any court
Yeah.
orders because it's DV.
No, it's redundant, and we're
Yeah.
trying to reduce that across
Yeah.
the board. We all are.
Yeah.
I'm just challenging that right now. The way we are with public safety right now, perception might be
Yeah.
something to consider when you remove specifically something that's been there a long time.
And the
then-
one thing I'll say on behalf of the board is
Yeah.
if they don't get the briefings, the mandates, the guidance,
Yeah.
the direction on public safety, like you all do.
Yeah, that's very
And so
fair.
they're trying to play catch up, and and when I come in and talk to them and say, DOC's dealing with this pressure, and that's why we're seeing these policy changes, and it's almost like they're not in the room for the discussion. I mean, they're not. They're not. So
That's fair.
I've been working really hard to try to get them in the discussion so that, a number of people I've talked to recently didn't even realize the 600 plus number that these folks have to manage on their end. They're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, there's more people on parole than on furlough. Let's pay attention to that. So part of these questions are coming from an area that they see you guys reacting and working on things, but they haven't been briefed themselves. So we're working on that.
And we're certainly not trying to make things more difficult
Yeah.
for you and not understanding how it works with OMS. I get that.
Yeah.
When we assign conditions, we're trying to be careful about making sure, first of all, because we review them, and I know that POs do as well when they get their cases in the field, but it gives us a chance to talk with them before we see that head off down the road.
Yeah.
And we say, we want to make sure you understand this, but we're not repeating ourselves over and over again. And so there's 35 conditions that you've got to understand and clearly work on, and they go out the door and they remember one or two.
Yeah, and we face that same challenge in supervising them.
Of
We're
course.
and working within that and understanding you're probably wanting to evolve. The court evolved, we've evolved, and the parole board it's only logical. It just might be a little bit of time.
So if we leave these other categories in place, but focus when we grant parole on our same target of addressing the risk factors, whether it comes from special conditions for DV or whatever. I mean, that's not a big deal.
Yeah, I would just
For us.
right, and around, because we're looking at the governor and around the public safety and the victim stuff right now, removing it specifically under DV, I don't know how that's going to look, because we're getting a lot of pressure to ensure our notifications, work groups, all that kit and caboodle around ensuring victims have those appropriate notifications and are involved in the process, as you guys also are experiencing very heavily. So
the other thing is that they're not exactly the same thing. So you have a violation of you have the court order thing, but a VAPO is a charge, right? So they haven't been convicted. So the court hasn't decided if they've actually violated the condition yet. They violated any of the court conditions of the court order yet, right? It's similar to the problem we've run into with condition 1 not having mention of citation or arrest. We have to then prove they broke the law because it says no act. So that's why you need, you bring in victims to testify. You end up kind of in a bind where you're sort of engaging in an initial sort of judicial process almost to determine if they broke the law. Whereas if we just draw the line at arrest, citation, court order, VAPO, it's a little bit more clear, and we're not kind of jumping through hoops to prove that specific feature was what was violated. So like that's another thing I wanted to advocate for, because we've had that discussion.
We have, and we were hesitant to go down that road with citations, and leave it open-ended that they shall not commit an act punishable by law, so that they could be charged, they could be arraigned, and the charge is dismissed, but the department could still bring forward a condition 1 if they felt they had information that by a preponderance of the evidence showed that they violated criminal law.
I think the problem we run into is that we're not the ones that collect that evidence.
I know. Yeah.
And then getting law enforcement,
but
state's attorney,
you've done a good job too in the last year.
We've lost a lot though too. I mean, it has been. Let's put it this way, Dean. There was a point where it was very cut and dry. They were either charged or they weren't, and we didn't have to get involved with state's attorneys and them complaining to us about them throwing their cases out under the bus, because we're getting, testimony involved that they're going to rely on for the prosecution. So, I think it unfortunately, it makes a resource jump required, and it sometimes pits us against the state's attorneys who are trying to do their job to prosecute a case. So I think it would make the life easier for everyone, and you can still not violate them. I mean, we could bring them forth for a citation. You say, you know what, we're going to say we're still going to release you, and that we're fine with that.
I get that.
And the judiciary split on that as well. We're slowly chipping away at them, but a large majority, we have to show the behaviors rise to the level of the crime. It's not just enough to say you've been charged. It's not enough for probable cause. It's not enough to get to further steps. You have to actually prove that they broke the law. And so there's a faction of judges that require that of us. And then there's a number that have come to the table and understood that, particularly if the situation is this is a repeat, this is behavior that we see a lot, they will expedite that condition one. But condition one is the most challenged one that we have in relation to, and that's why you guys are seeing the mini trials and why prisoners' rights is throwing everything at you, and because it's essentially the first run at the underlying criminal engagement. So.
One of our biggest concerns is we really don't want to undermine a criminal case. If there's a pending trial, we really do run the risk of, when you get statements that can later be contradicted in the court, it's like you're really opening up, for a lot of vulnerability to that case being basically done away with. Because we're not equipped, we're not law enforcement, and we're not equipped to provide that. And also, even if we did, it now gives the defense a opportunity to see exactly what's available at a level that they wouldn't necessarily have, which could really undermine. And the other one that is brought up continually is it really does often require, especially in the he said, she said situations, that we're bringing victims in, and now they're going to have to testify again, potentially for the criminal case if it doesn't get dismissed. So, it makes perfect sense to have that with the way you have it, but in terms of the implications for the system, it's really been problematic.
Affidavits are very important to us, and a lot of times we don't get an affidavit to support any claims that are being made.
Okay. Mm-hmm. We can.
I hear so much training going on.
Sorry.
We're willing to.
No, it's great.
We're willing to work with you on this. If that's something you need in order to support it. We could even say, probable cause. There could be a different bar set, but I think right now it's very general, and it's really hard for us to bring the resources that you need in order to feel confident that the law has been broken.
And so just to kind of piggyback, one other thing that I've had on my back burner that we did do some work with the Center of Effective Public Policy on is violations. And one of my goals is to rework the entire violation chapter of our policies, to talk with the board, to look at, and the board's looking at some kind of tool to help make their decisions as well, to be more transparent, because the Defender General, the Prisoners' Rights Office has asked for the same kind of thing of give us an idea of what we're up against. So that way because right now they're throwing the kitchen sink at everything because they don't know. There's no real set stance. So I am working on one of these days trying to redevelop that part of the manual with the board, so that way to provide more aspects to staff and everyone of the process, what's the reprimand process, what's the violation process, all of that, because there's really no guidance out there for staff when it comes to parole violations.
Thank you.
Keep working.
So the next steps, I just need to know what next steps are around the conditions. Would you just have a private session and discuss amongst, and then it comes into COT?
We've essentially approved these now. So the lettering and so forth, the numbering doesn't make any difference to us. Whatever works for you on that is fine.
Okay.
As far as changing anything, like talking more about citations, that sort of thing, that the board's going to have to work on and agree to modify
So what I can do, Cassie, is I'll take another stab at this. I'll bring it to COT. I don't know.
Yep.
And we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think.
Honestly, I don't feel like there's the board is already kind of in practice.
Yeah, like only selecting
these conditions anyway. So I don't see that, to me, it's not a drastic enough change that I think we have to rush this.
Oh, perfect. That's kind of what we needed. Thank you.
I have just been hearing over the time, MJ, where's the conditions at?
Right,
MJ, where's the conditions at? It's like, I don't know if Dean, this is your last one of your last legacies.
Your last?
No, this is like the fourth iteration. The only concern I have is when the board adopts changes, then how do we get them in play? Because they've been adopted by us. So technically that's what we're supposed to be using.
And I think one other thing that maybe we can work on too, myself and whoever at DOC is how we can partner better around when the board wants to make changes to stuff in OMS, because that's still always been unclear to me of what's the process of when we want to change things and when we want to propose things and so forth. So I think maybe that's another conversation we can have further at COT or different meetings, just to
or make it more, and I would propose, if Matt is also okay with this, is make it more that DOC is here maybe for the first half hour of your board meetings, just to be here, whether we participate or not, or question.
Cassidy, you're spot on, and that's exactly what I was thinking, like a standing time for us to be able to exchange information, I think is going to be extremely important. And, just the theme of this, of what I've been hearing is this communication piece and how can we better collaborate. And I'm sure we've heard this before, but we're going to do it. I mean, that's just what we're going to do going forward. So.
Great.
And I think we can do it in two different, I think there's also the levels piece too of the board doesn't need all the nuances and
so you can come to us. I'll come to one, you come to us.
So
like 2 standing meetings a month or something to that effect. And I know we've been talking about it, Cassie, for a while. We just haven't put it on our calendar.
And if I may also propose, I'd like to bring in victim services. Because we were looking at policy, Meredith and I were talking, and want to support and also address how we can move forward based on both Lori's recommendations, the Parole's experience in our last huge release.
And they have come to several of our meetings, so that's
but I think we need to have like a real specific kind of standard of operation procedure kind of work group, if I may put that out there at some point. And I'll talk to MJ in the next spot about.
Before we leave the conditions, I want to make sure everybody that you understand in particular that for us, we spend a lot of time. We've been very fortunate over the last 8-10 years getting training from people throughout the country on different segments. And we've had training on condition setting. And in our last conference, we spent time on that as well again. And it's amazing how many states look at what we're doing and are envious of the opportunities we have to make changes, to look at things in a different vein than they do. And the trainer that we've used in the past has been really helpful getting us to focus on risk, what your outcomes are, and how conditioning sets an outcome up to be successful. And that's been our goal. Not to create confusion.
No, I know what's going on, and I think it's fine to evolve, but to evolve conditions, which only changes a little letter, and the implications of it to me is like,
we don't care about the letter.
Can you just keep 14A for a while, and then we'll pull it in? You just don't select it when you give them parole.
We did the same thing with CSG. Justice for Investment. So our conditions are kind of shaped around this. What I'd recommend, what I really would hope for, is next time either department or parole board is interested in doing it, like an overhaul, might be a year or 2 or whatever, 3, 4, whenever that's coming up. I think it'd be really helpful if we could do it with the same entity and come up with the same conditions. Because if furlough and parole were analogous, it would be so much easier for training, for recommendations around conditions. We could develop the same guidance, like all of that could be aligned. which we had talked about. In the past.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if we want to make sure from the
And we're so
ground
much
up,
closer than
we are. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, so I mean, whenever that's coming up, please,
Yeah.
you know, we'll do the same.
absolutely. There would be no problem with having you folks attend as well.
So what I'll do to prepare is that, MJ, you're going to send that to me. And then on the 14th, Krista's at the COT table meeting.
Okay.
Then we can talk about realistic way to implement these, you know, the condition change to add the transitional housing, the rewording around restricted travel versus restricted associates. You know what I mean? Those to me are like, could be a simpler lift than all the others. So we can work out that time frame of, and hopefully, I would say if you would be okay with it, pushing that out just a little bit further of October, when we can assess what we're able to do to support your changes.
Okay.
Okay. So the 14th, 2 weeks. Cool.
So we will rework the lettering, numbering, MJ, and
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. Well, that's all I have. I'm looking at that if we're able to adjust everything.
Yeah, I think we nailed it. The big thing would be looking for a time frame on actual change and how we can get our staff ready for that.
Yeah, and we can talk about, I'll make it an agenda item at COT when Mary Jane's there and Krista will be at the table and can hash out some of that training messaging too, both to facility and field, I think.
Yep.
The no contact condition, if you leave it at 14.2, there are cases that aren't DV cases where that needs to be in place. And so we don't tell them it's a special condition for domestic violence. It's a condition that you have to.
And that's kind of why we're trying to pull that condition out, because we're putting it as a condition 18 a lot.
Yeah.
As a special written in one for the cases, for like the murder cases or the aggravated assault cases where it comes into play, but it's not specific.
Yeah, it's not. IPV. Yeah.
But if it just has a number, we don't have to call it anything specific.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it, as long as, again, we don't change all of 15 A, B, and C. Like,
no, we
lift is a lot easier.
We
can do that much in a shorter time frame.
And we can leave 15A on the list. It does. We can make it work.
All right, perfect.
And I think it just shows how I don't know who to go to is part of it too when we do have these things. So we'll figure it out.
What? No, just joking. Well, thank you. I appreciate being invited. Looks like Mike or Gary or one of the team members might see you. I think we'll probably talk about it as a unit, at least for 15, 20 minutes of your time during your board meetings. So
we're glad to have you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. And thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Good to see you.
See you, Mary Jane. Let me know what you need. Hi, ciao. Nice meeting you in person. Thank you. Don't say too many things about us.
Oh, it'll be on YouTube.
It's all public information.
It'll be on YouTube for you to watch.
Oh,
We
yeah.
also post these.
Have we ever heard any, speaking of YouTube, have we heard any more from that? Didn't take it to the courts, as far as we know.
No,
No, he just never came back.
Good.
After Lori gave us.
After he said all the threats,
Waiting.
nothing ever
I was
happened.
looking forward to it.
I know. I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, whatever happened to that guy?
I had my argument all prepared, all my constitutional stuff sorted. I was ready to rock.
That we didn't give him enough views for him to worry about, because he kept saying a couple times in the videos, because I'll admit it, I stalked him. I wanted to see what he was saying. But during ours, he's like, I don't know if Vermont's our cup of tea, guys. What do you think? I mean, this board is a little weird. And so I really
That's
don't
a good
think we
thing.
were giving him enough of the clickbait that he needed to make money. So I don't think it was worth his time.
Yeah, no.
Meaning he didn't want to try to fight it out in court and spend money. Probably.
They usually
Making him
don't.
money.
Yeah,
They
they
get-
usually.
They get money for views. That's how they make money on YouTube. So we weren't
Really?
getting enough. Yeah.
When we were at our conference, I was chatting with one of the pro board members from one of the other states that still has him.
Oh,
In
still
play.
dealing
Yeah.
with them. Mhm.
They haven't tried anything?
I don't know that they got the support we did to try anything.
Oh.
From what I was getting, even in our regional meetings, didn't seem like any other states got the support that we were getting.
You can't pass rally. We'll take a bagel break where we can move.
Yeah, I'll go for a 5.
I wondered what you had in your satchel there,
Yeah.
Wayne. I was like, he's got some
I
good.
heard-
Yeah, well, usually
we're having the discussion about the citation issue.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure if Sam was in the room when we started this, and Wayne and Katie were talking about. Wayne, why don't you do your quick overview of what a citation is and how that comes about?
Okay. Cop finds a violation and decides he's going to cite the person, not arrest.
Yeah, that's what I'm confused about.
Okay.
Gives him a citation to appear at a specific time and date at a specific place, i.e.
Right.
district court at 9 a.m. for da-da-da-da on the
Right.
20th.
Specific offense.
Right.
And then he puts an offense in the box. And that's just
Whatever.
his law training.
Okay.
It may not be what the actual charge becomes. You can put anything in that box because the citation is merely an invitation to appear at court. It's not a court order. It's an invitation per se.
Your presence
So
requested.
then the cop goes home because that citation, that court date's a month and a half down the road. So he goes on vacation. He keeps pushing that to the back of his box, and that date disappears. Nothing happens. Once, if it's done correctly, he gets back to the office, boom, 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 or she, boom, 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 types up an affidavit of probable cause, does a quick investigation report, does a discovery form, lists the evidence that he sees to be used, takes that package, goes to the state's attorney's office. I cited this guy for grand larceny. Deputy state's attorney, whoever reviews the cases in the bottom of the barrel that month, reviews everything. He says, no, you don't have it here. You got petty larceny. So he does the state's attorney's information, which is the formal charge, not the citation. The state's attorney's information will go over to the court charging petty larceny by Joe Blow with the law. On such and such a day, Joe Blow went in and stole less than $900, yada, da, da, da. Judge reviews the affidavit and the state's attorney's information. If he finds it copacetic, he finds probable cause, gives it to the clerk. Then the paperwork is processed at court, files created, and that citation is valid. And that person shows up and he gets arraigned to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. If none of that paperwork gets to the court, the guy shows up at that time and they say, we don't have any paperwork. That's that. It's not an arrest warrant. It's not a failure to, it's nothing.
So to add to that, when this incident occurs, this person's on parole. Many times the officer will contact the parole officer and let him know one of their supervisees has been arrested or been charged or whatever. So they do a violation. And so it comes to us as a violation. And they may only have a citation. Usually they have an affidavit. But in many cases, if you look at the citation, they haven't appeared yet. So.
And sometimes where this happens, my first education of parole, I mean, college education, but my first actual education of how parole works, I'd done a search warrant for a house in St. Albans. We went up, it was a stolen gun case. It was a deputy sheriff had the case. He went in and tried all his yada yada interview and he couldn't get anything. I said, you mind if I go in? I was state's attorney's investigator at the time working with his kid. He goes, no. I went in, gift of gab. Kid gave up everything, stole him out of this house in New Hampshire and anything. Wow. Goes, well, the corrections wanted to let us know how we made out. So Henry picks out, it was Henry Farnham, actually, was the case officer for the sheriff's department. Picks up the phone and calls the guy's parole officer. One of the things in a good interview, when I said, no matter what you tell me here today, you're not going to jail. You could, short of killing President Kennedy, I don't care what you tell me, you're not going to be in custody. I'm going to turn around and walk away. You may receive a citation or you may be arrested down the road. But you're free to go right now. I did that little poem before he gave up everything. Walk out, Henry calls and the PO says, yeah, could you just drop them off at St. Albans on your way out of town?
Oh,
no. You didn't tell me you were on parole.
Oh,
So move into custody in St. Albans he goes. And so in that
you
case,
lied.
there's no paperwork. I mean, this is an ongoing investigation. It's still a month and a half from what would have been a citation and a true great investigation because it involved New Hampshire, Maine, New York, and these guns moving everything. So that's how a citation.
Can I structure this a little bit? And I think this was where you'd have a police incident report to follow off of.
Right.
And I just kind of want to focus the conversation around citations a little bit of the weight they have in like a violation hearing versus a probable cause hearing, because we're getting challenges on probable cause based on citations a lot more lately.
Yeah.
And I want to just point that out. I think you're looking at the evidence that you have to go along with that citation, not just the piece of paper that says.
When you were outside, the Pat and I were chatting about, in some cases, she's seeing just the citation with no affidavits, which is rare. I mean, 90% of them at least, you get a citation, you have the police affidavit as well. But if all you have is the citation, then yeah, we've got to dig into more information before we make a decision.
Well, and I think what's happening, and a lot of this is coming out of Chittenden County, especially the Burlington area. I think what's happening is they're flash citing people. They're not writing their affidavits right away. The staff aren't getting those affidavits right away. And it takes a long time for it to work its way through the state's attorney's office. That's why sometimes you'll see a citation date out a month or 2 or 3.
Oh, yeah. That's always.
And so it's really important that they include some kind of police incident report, something.
Yeah.
Some kind of substance with it. And then I think if you get some of that substance with it, I think it's absolutely easy to call probable cause on it. It's then when it gets to that violation, and most of the time those violations will probably get postponed out further.
Right.
For that.
But I think having something to go with that or some kind of evidence to go with it, I think it doesn't have to be in my mind for probable cause. Correct me what you think, Dean. I don't think you have to have an affidavit with it to call probable cause, but you have to have some evidence of the incident.
The citation is not the all.
No, but I don't think, but I think you can have an incident report, or you can have some information from the PO.
Well, a lot of times the PO will say, I had a conversation with the officer and this is what the officer said happened.
That would be golden.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Exactly.
you're going to get, you can't testify what the officer told you. So,
well,
Not a-
but at the
generally-
PDC hearing, they don't.
Generally, I think at PC we're okay.
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
PC.
I'm more talking
Yeah,
PC
okay.
because it's cropping up more at PC hearings than it is a violation.
But what they would like us to do
Oh, I know.
is not, I can't support that.
What if,
No, because
They
again,
want
I'm
us to
giving you a
what?
quick little
Not
trailer
what?
here
Not
that
considered at all.
Position one to just say citation.
Cases in the state's attorney's
Thought I
office
had a.
are amended on a regular basis. They're dismissed, or they just disappear.
They're not brought. Yeah.
Because a lot of times there's a reason. Somebody talks to somebody and says, I can do this for you if this charge goes away. State's attorney, no prosecution. Doesn't mean that incident didn't happen.
right. So my question is like what you said about sometimes that original offense you're seeing in the citation, that will get amended to something different once the state's attorney gets it.
Mhm. The state's attorney is the one that makes the formal charge, not the cop.
So when that happens, is the offender not notified until they show up
Right.
for that scheduled date?
Right.
Or do they have to be notified ahead of time
No.
that their charge
We'll
is
find out
actually
at
gonna be
arraignment.
changed?
He has no rights until his arraignment, per se.
Yeah, he'll
As
find
far
out when
as
he goes
being
to court.
involved in the paperwork and the charging.
So they may be showing up thinking they're being charged with this, but come to find out
Yes.
they're showing up on that
Yes.
on that citation date that they're given.
And then they'll be appointed an
It's different.
attorney and they'll work with their
You know,
attorney.
a
Because
very
they can get
common one is
amended again
charged with
before.
DUI and may come in charged with CNN or no case because for whatever
Or
reason.
DUI, and then the test comes back under .08 or
Right.
something.
So you may get a charge of careless and negligent or ticket. State's attorney might say just issue them a traffic ticket for under the 08 or alcohol. I mean, there's so
And
many
how
different
does the
things that can
offender get
happen.
notified of that?
They'll get
At the arraignment.
notified at when they go to
But
court.
no, like what you just said, if it gets dropped down to just a ticket or
The court,
He'll
the
get the
court will
ticket.
get they'll send him a ticket and then cancel a hearing.
okay. And what if the state's attorney decides to take no action? Is there anything that
I assume he'll get a cancel of hearing.
Will they
notice,
get-
The
or he'll
officer
show up-
should notify him, tell him not to show
Or
up.
he'll show up in court and say, oh, the charge was dropped.
But as Wayne was saying, in our time, we would let the offender know,
We try to find a guy and say, hey,
don't show up. Yeah.
is there any, if the courts don't have any information, so they can't give any information, where could they go to get information? Could they contact the state's attorney's office to find
Yeah.
out what happened with it? Or the officer? Like, who would know? Who would,
The officer should know.
if it was
Yeah.
no action was taken?
he's
Right.
kind of driver of the bus.
Yeah.
Okay, so the officer should know. All right, because and this is just for, like, I see it in
In
two
order for
cases,
him to
like,
be arraigned at that case, the officer's going to have had to submit his evidence for
To the
it.
state's
but the
attorney.
state's attorney sends it, their decision gets sent back to the officer?
Yes. Yeah, they would be notified.
Okay. I mean, I see this, like, for us being an issue too, like, I think what MJ said makes sense to me. If nothing's been taken and they just have a citation, to postpone the violation hearing.
We do a
Because
lot.
who knows what's gonna happen with that?
Yeah.
And
You
so if
don't
they're
see
bringing
that.
them in on a violation of a condition 1 and it hasn't officially been charged yet.
But my
Well, see,
issue is,
there's where you got to change your thinking.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if he's officially charged or not. It happened.
So that still can be a condition 1.
Absolutely.
Something happened.
Something happened.
Something
It-
happened.
A crime of some sort caused law enforcement intervention.
There was some kind of incident that caused law enforcement
And
to
if-
respond.
So
And all we need is a preponderance of evidence to show that.
to violate them for that condition 1.
Right.
What happens if we violate them on condition 1, they go take it to trial, it's found not guilty at all, it's thrown
They
out,
can ask for
and they come back?
No.
reconsideration,
Yeah.
and the board could grant a reconsideration if they
But
feel that
doesn't
the
have to.
evidence is changed enough.
Remember, there's a
Okay.
different threshold for criminal case. It's beyond a reasonable doubt.
Okay,
And ours is a preponderance of the evidence. So you could have a preponderance of the evidence, but not beyond a reasonable doubt.
They're not found innocent. They're found not guilty
okay.
of the crime they were charged
Okay.
with.
I just
Not
didn't
innocent.
know.
It's the
Not
same
innocent.
thing.
Getting into semantics.
Okay, so we have, Pat has I'm gonna try to frame a little bit. Pat, what was your question?
for probable cause bail hearings, you have a citation. He hasn't been to court.
Right.
We can't postpone the probable cause hearing.
What's your evidence?
Yeah, what's your evidence before you is what you gotta look at.
What the officer say happened?
Okay, and sometimes I don't have an affidavit.
You don't need an affidavit. What is the PO presenting for
Okay.
you? Do they have a police incident report? Did they talk to the police officer?
Yeah.
What are they
Then you've
giving
got
you?
hearsay.
It doesn't, at probable cause is
Yeah.
a different threshold.
Yes,
Don't forget, we got hearsay at the violation.
Yeah.
too.
Yes.
And we
And you
consider
have to
it.
show that you have good
Oh, you
cause
can.
to,
Yeah.
and you can accept hearsay as long as you can prove that you have good cause to accept that
To
hearsay.
accept
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Hearsay, not
Okay.
hearsay.
You say
I say
hairspray?
both.
But probable cause
Hear
is
what she said?
probable cause is a much
hearsay.
lower threshold, and I know that there's one attorney that's been challenging probable cause a lot more, and she will send you down a rabbit hole.
Mhm.
So,
Jill.
yeah.
Can we roundtable bail hearings? Because I've never sat in on
Yeah, of
one,
course.
so I'm not,
Yeah,
like,
so
I'm
I feel
familiar,
like
but not.
I feel like we're in roundtable a little bit.
Yeah, we
talking about
are.
Citations.
Sorry.
So, no, but I think probable cause bail hearings are a good thing too to
Sure.
talk about.
Can
Every
you,
Friday morning.
Yes, feel free to join.
I have-
It's a different link.
I think I have 6 tomorrow morning.
oh God,
6, 5 or 6.
can you
Goodness.
kind of like
A lot of them.
structure what it is? Like, what do you expect? Because I'm not familiar with them at all.
Yeah, well, you sit in and observe them.
Okay,
I'd be happy to talk you through if you want to sit on one that I'm doing.
okay.
I
That'd be
think
great.
it would be good right now, though. I think just because of some of the questions that Pat's posing, Sam's a little unfamiliar.
I've never
Katie's
seen him either.
unfamiliar. Maybe Dean, if you could just give like a high level overview of probable
sure.
cause, because I think it would be good because I think it might answer some of Pat's questions
So,
too.
yeah, and it, by statute, the chair is charged with doing that, but I can also designate someone to do them as
Okay.
well. And there's 2 components of it. There's
The form
custody
you could throw
status
up
or
there.
bail. It's called bail, but we don't actually set bail. We decide whether they remain in custody or not. And if we release them, under what conditions do we release them pending the final violation here? So the first part of the hearing,
And it has to be done within 20 days
well,
of the violation.
they're entitled to the bail hearing and the probable cause hearing if we're not going to see them within 20 days for the
Right.
And
violation.
in the manual,
Okay.
and
For the
to make it
violation.
more confusing, in the manual, it's called a preliminary violation hearing.
Which is what it is.
Which
yeah.
is not necessarily what we title it.
Right.
Okay.
I always, when I start off, I always tell the offender, this is a preliminary violation hearing, not the final violation hearing. And I always talk with the attorney first to see, are you challenging probable
Mhm.
cause or not?
Hmm.
In most cases, they do not.
They do not.
They are looking at just custody status. And one of the critical things with custody status is the statute says we may release them pending the violation. We do not have to. We don't actually have to give a reason. We can just say we're not releasing.
There's no right to bail in
Yeah.
these hearings.
For a parole violation.
So
So
who argues them?
They have
The
a-
attorney?
they
and
have,
the
so
Prisoners' rights.
the parole officers there, usually Bob Menzel or
Mhm.
whoever's representing DOC, the offender, and the Prisoners' Rights Office attorney.
Okay.
And so if they're challenging probable cause, then in the violation hearing, as you know, could be 1 condition, could be 10, you know. And so you ask, are they challenging probable cause? If they are, okay, we'll go through each one of them one at a time and swear in the officer and the offender. And if they bring in a witness or something, they don't have to, and typically they don't. We'll start off by asking the officer to present his or her probable cause information. Well, so-and-so was cited to appear in court a month and a half for a DUI or something like that. And I talked with the officer and got the information about how the officer stopped him. He was driving, whatever, you know, the circumstances. And I'll ask prisoners' rights for what their challenge is to probable cause, and they will explain it and then make a decision. I find probable cause for conditions, blah, 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 and move on to bail. And then on the report, write up the findings as to why the decision was made to find probable cause. And then in the bail, ask the officer, what is your request for custody status pending the final violation hearing? Typically, they say, we want him to remain in custody until the final violation. Okay. And then I'll ask the Prison Rights Office to give me their recommendation and what their plan is. So a lot of times I'll go into a plan of, we'd like to see this person released pending the final violation hearing because they have a chance to go into residential treatment, for example. That's a big one. If they can go directly into residential treatment, if it's substance use related, then we'd like them to have that opportunity to go into residential treatment before the final violation hearing, if a bed opens up. So 90% of the time, that's what we'll agree to do, is let them go to residential treatment until. In other cases, depending on if there's victim issues or whatever, or if there's threats that they may leave the jurisdiction or have no place to go that's protected anyway, we would choose not to release them. Or if we did release them to a specific residence, 24-hour curfew, electronic monitoring, pretty tight conditions until the final election year.
Okay.
And prisoners' rights always argues that they need to be a risk of flight
They don't.
in order to hold them, which they do not need to be a risk of flight, but that's always their number one argument. But I can give you the violation, preliminary violation hearing user guide if you're interested.
We developed
in
this a
just
few
going
years
through it.
ago, which is it's a good blueprint. You start off on the probable cause side, and if there's none, then you switch over to the back, and
script to go through it.
it gives you. We had written up all these examples of temporary conditions and stuff
Give
like
me
that.
another copy of that.
Yeah.
So they're usually
You're welcome.
relatively quick, and they don't get too involved
Most of the time.
most of the time.
90% of the time. 10
Once
minutes
in a
or
while,
less.
you'll have an
Oh, well.
offender that likes to talk.
Or you'll have
an attorney that's gonna argue and bring in witnesses
Yeah.
left and right. And
Yeah. I try to shortchange that as much
I
as
love
possible.
that you do that. You're like, no, we're not doing this
We're
here.
not doing it.
We're not doing it here. All right, next.
Retrying the case.
You can do all this next week at the PV hearing. I don't
But
know.
yeah, jump on anytime.
All right. Thank you. That was helpful.
Got a few tomorrow morning if you want to jump in.
I'll be there. And if you get and I don't know, Dean, I'm gonna run this by because I know sometimes these can be overwhelming.
Mhm.
You can say, I'm just thinking for you, Pat, because sometimes the attorneys can get under your skin a little bit. Can she call a deliberative session to just take a break to think about what she's gonna do for her decision and not have to make it so
Good
much on the spot?
question.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
question.
Sure.
And then say if I'm on there, I could go in and maybe bounce off some of those thoughts. I'm just thinking because we're just trying to, it's
Yeah.
sometimes it's just so flying and so fast.
Right.
Can she take a minute or two to deliberate her decision?
Of course.
And I've never done that. And sometimes I just need to sit and think a
I
minute.
wouldn't call it a deliberative session. I would just say, I'm going to take a minute and review my notes here and what everyone said.
Okay.
And I'll get back to you in just a minute.
Yeah.
And
that'll
that'd
be our
perfect.
cue
be
to-
nice to do for
With
training,
you
like
away
if I
from
sat
me.
in
Yeah.
on one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
that.
I'm just thinking that I just thought of that because I'm like,
That's a good
sometimes
idea.
they're expecting such a quick decision. Sometimes these should be, to me, some of them are cut and dry.
Yeah.
Some of them
Some
aren't.
aren't.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
Good point.
Sure.
as a
Thank you.
thought.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Especially when you have a lot of probable cause issues to decide.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
if we decide at the preliminary hearing that there's no probable cause, then there's no violation. It doesn't go forward. So you guys don't get to see the case then.
Well, or we've seen many cases lately where probable cause isn't found on certain conditions, but it's found on other conditions. So when you're looking at the violation report, you'll still see those conditions that were first brought.
Right.
That's why we're notating it on the schedule when PC is not found on a condition, because you can't look at that condition anymore in your violation hearing.
But our probable cause bail hearing reports are always in there.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And the recordings are always in their offender files. I would highly encourage, if we have a probable cause bail hearing, to watch it as part of your prep,
Mhm.
because it gives out a lot of information in their initial pleading to get out.
I just watched one you did.
How'd it go?
It went well.
You won.
It went well. I just watched one because for a case I think we've got in St. Albans maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And you did a PC hearing and I watched it yesterday, as a matter of fact.
You already doing your prep for St. Albans?
I always look at them ahead of time.
We're past the 4 days. Never
Yeah.
mind. Never mind.
I can't remember if I
I
remember.
highly
2 days ago.
encourage you not to do your prep or until at least 4 business days before the hearings,
Because
because
you'll be prepping for stuff that's out
You're
there.
something will be going away.
I always look at the schedule and I don't make my notes, but I always look at what's going on and I go into the file and If I don't need it, I don't
Four
need it.
business days. It's the deadline for postponement requests is 4 business days before a hearing.
And that could be up until like 4:15 PM that we get.
So 3
it could
business
change
days.
literally. as
I
we're
wouldn't
walking
do
out
your
the door.
prep
Right.
if possible until at least 3 business days before a hearing. Then that way you're gonna get, because you may be prepping for cases that you're not, and sometimes it's significant
Mhm.
where 5 or 6 cases drop off.
Right.
So
Yeah.
just a highlight.
And usually anything that comes in at the last minute, and I'm sure you all remember this, is that we'll get to decide as a board whether we want to continue it or postpone it.
Yep.
Good. Thank you.
Cool. Anything else? Roundtable. Katie?
Can you just, I know we've kind of beat this dead horse a little bit, but sometimes my brain gets going too much during them. During the parole violations, can you just go over again real quick? I know there's 2 parts to it. I get all that. But the first one, we're not allowed to ask questions that would come up in disposition, correct?
Correct.
Because sometimes I have a hard time reading myself
Yes.
on that one. And it gets confusing, like, okay, which part are we at? When are we allowed to ask? What aren't we allowed to ask? That sort of thing. So can
it's-
you just kind of refresh my memory?
The evidentiary part, and we used to do this, Wayne Powell, we would be the interrogators,
Mhm.
POs, and get to,
It was,
So to make it simple, in evidence, the only thing that you can ask a question on is if it's a direct clarification question of something that was presented to you by either side.
Something we've heard already.
Yep.
That
Or that was in the report or in the
Okay.
documents. That's the only thing you can ask. You can't go and try to seek out further
to
information.
get clarification on.
Okay.
Not to seek it,
Yeah, you can't seek out information or ask.
or start
More
questioning the
information.
offender about, did
Yeah,
you
you can
really
only-
do this?
You can only ask if somebody, say the PO's made a statement and you're like, wait a minute, I need you to clarify what you said. I didn't quite catch all what you said, or,
Mhm.
but that's the only thing you can do in evidence.
And then-
it's very frustrating. I can see it from your perspective, because from mine, and I'm sure Dean's, I mean, I watch these things going down in flames. And we used to try to get it back up in the air, but I finally realized, and we've been
You're the
educated,
Well,
we're sitting as a judge. All you're
but at
deciding.
that time too, Wayne, they didn't have attorneys with them either.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even now with the
Yeah.
attorneys, there's sometimes this thing's going on. I'm just sitting there going, ask them this. But no, I mean, if that question was asked and the answer came back, I'd probably go. But all you're doing is deciding, has the state or has DOC proven the violation based on what you've heard?
Okay. And then, so the second part of it,
Disposition.
the disposition, yes. I think that's where I get the most hung up is like, how much are we allowed, how broad are we allowed to go with
So
those?
the thing you got to separate, and I can sense that with you sometimes, is
Oh, every time,
I know.
all the time.
It's
Like-
not a parole eligible hearing. These people
Right.
are on parole. So at disposition, you're going to get a recommendation from DOC with hopefully some good explanation as to why they want this outcome. And then you're going to get the defense bringing in theirs. And so what we need to do is weigh whether we want to go in this direction or that direction. Now, if there's something in the proposal that we don't like and maybe we want to talk about as a group, the 3 of us can talk about that.
Well, you can talk, so I've had these debates with Lori a little bit around disposition too. We
Yeah.
have a little bit more free reign in disposition.
We do. It's not just clarification.
You can question, but not the same kind, not to go into the in-depth like you might be, like going into the details of the treatment or the details of all the, you can't go quite as deep, but you got to be confident in your decision if you want to continue somebody on parole. Like if there's a
Mhm.
question of where are you going to live, well, what are the appointments?
So we can ask those kind of questions to
Yes.
tease that out.
if there is, you've got to have enough confidence in your decision to revoke or not revoke.
Yeah.
And you can tease some of that out. You have the liberty
If the plan
because you're
that's
not
being
looking at
presented
evidence.
by the attorney for the offender, a lot of times you get the hope love ones.
Yes. Oh shit! Don't even get me started.
I know. So, but that's what you're making a decision on.
I'm a little biased when it comes to her.
Well, we hear that a lot.
I don't know that I trust her a whole lot.
But those are the kinds of things you want to be clear about when you make your decision.
Mm-hmm.
Is this realistic? Is this a plan that can work? Does this make sense?
And it's not an opportunity to talk to the individual about what they did either. It's not
Right.
It's not a time to go into
Tell me why you did that.
telling it's why you did it. Do I trust you? That kind of do I trust that you're not going to go back out and do it again? Because I've heard that before in dispositions, not as much as it used to.
Yeah.
But it's not a time to go in and have those deeper conversations with the offender either.
I think that the most
Or
important
Parole.
part is the deliberative session.
Mhm.
For us to go in and then three of us say, okay, what are our concerns? Where are we leaning on this? And if you have a concern and it's you and I and Wayne and he and I are one direction and you're in another, let's try to get to the bottom of your concern. Maybe we go back and ask another
Mhm.
follow-up question or whatever, or amongst our discussion, we resolve whatever concern we have and we go forward.
Yeah, I think there's some that are very, for me, there's some that are very like cut and dry, whether to revoke or not. But then there's others where I could see kind of both sides. And so I'm like, when this is where I get stuck is how much prying am I allowed to do? And like when there's, well, that option might be okay, but what about, is there this going to
And
be
it's
followed up
separating
on?
your clinical hat as you're doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's impossible. I've come to find out.
And I think the other thing too, and the other thing that I want to point out is it's okay to not agree with the other two board members too.
Oh, yeah.
The other two board members will ask you for your opinion and what your thoughts are, but it's okay to not agree. We do not have to be unanimous all the time.
Yeah.
And I just want to remind folks that you can have your own thought. That's why we're a board, and that's why the governor appoints all of you, is because you have different backgrounds, you have different pieces. But as long as as long as you're consistent in how you're doing things and you're doing things in congruence with the parole, the philosophies and the vision of the board and our policies, it's okay.
Yeah, I actually prefer it when I'm on the fence like that, and I think I might be leaning one way, to have the other, at least one of the other board members in deliberative session have because sometimes it makes me, once I hear that side, it makes me feel more confident about what I'm like, whether to if I'm on such a fence about it. Sometimes that kind of helps. Kind of like that.
That's sometimes why I will also tease out stuff once in a while. I'll think like I've been throwing out a lot with regular parole hearings of what's your SDMF telling you? Just to tease out some of those thoughts. And yes, Wayne, you can twitch your face and everything every time we say SDMF. We see it.
I won't do that. If I'm facilitating, I don't do that.
No,
I sit
Colby
back
does
and
not.
I stay quiet.
Right.
Sometimes it's like there's like this big, well, it could go, there's like the emotional side of it of like, well, this might be an option. And then there's this. So, and then sometimes my gut just really says this, but then after hearing more of the logic from someone that's thinking something different, sometimes it helps kind of reframe it back for me into more of a, wait, I have to take this part of my brain off.
It's also good to make sure you've looked at their history.
Mm-hmm.
If this is the third time we've had a reprimand option for them.
Yeah.
And we're getting through,
Probably not.
Like that one that we had back, I think, like on the 17th of June. That one was tough. Yeah. Do we send back or don't we?
Yeah.
I think Pat, were you on that one?
I can't remember the 17th. Where were we?
Bennington, I think. That one was tough, and but that's what it came down to, is how many times have we seen?
It was you, Tom, and Dean.
Oh, so it was that one where, and it was his birthday too. That one felt bad.
I was wondering if that was the one you were talking
Yeah.
about. Mr. Birthday Man.
Or it was like, what it really, for me, came down to is like, I was on the fence, but then it was like, this is the third violation in like a matter of like 6
Did you
months.
say June or July?
June.
June. Okay.
No, July. Sorry.
Okay.
July.
Then it was
July.
you, me, and Wayne.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
June
We sent
it was.
back on
I
his
remember
birthday.
when you said the birthday. I remember this guy's birthday
Yeah.
was that
So it
day.
could have been me. I would never send it back on his birthday.
It was like the
He
day
did.
after my
I
son's
know.
birthday, a few days before mine, and it was
Said
his
happy
birthday.
birthday.
Oh, I know you even brought it up. You said, I see that
Yeah.
it's your birthday, and we're.
I've had 2 or 3 of those in the last month that they're on their birthdays.
You guys are tough.
But well, what did it for me is what you just said, is that looking at, I think what the final decision for me was that this was the third violation in like 6 months or something. So
And even think one step beyond that, it's the third violation was brought.
yeah. Yeah. And it was hard because the only condition one was a driving license suspended. I mean, there were more potential charges that we couldn't consider, but it was
Repeat behavior.
It was so sometimes that is good to look at and how.
Well, it's really helpful to have the discussions, I think.
Yep.
In the old days, it was pretty much if DOC came in and wanted them revoked, we just revoked.
Mm.
We're doing a much better job now. Wayne, anything you got? Pat?
I don't have. No.
Yeah.
I just think that the discussions are helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we go into deliberative, I know, like Katie was saying, you, Tom, and I were on a hearing a couple of weeks ago, and I was the odd one out, and it was a majority decision, but I think the conversation was helpful for me.
Yeah, good.
And I think
Which side of the majority are you on?
I said no, and they said yes.
Wow. If they didn't twist you.
Was it a
Good for
violation?
you.
Was it a violation or
Good
was
for
it a
you.
parole consideration?
Well, and I think, so I'm going to be the little advocate a little bit too, just for some of you veterans. Sometimes the pressure to the newbies can be a little immense, and how you're questioning their decision sometimes comes across as a pressure sometimes, not necessarily not a teasing out sometimes of their opinion or their thoughts. Sometimes it's like, well, why aren't you? If you listen to the way you phrase it and stuff,
Really?
sometimes it's more of it's the unconscious things that it's normal.
I mean, like I might say, what are you thinking?
It's the unconscious stuff.
I mean, something like that, which I'm just kidding, but
all of
you take me serious?
I guess I'll have to.
I just want to be
Rethink that.
just as we've got newer folks, just it's a learning curve, and we all just be cognizant of it. And that's why I said it's okay not for everybody to.
It is.
I don't get swayed easily.
Yeah.
I mean, well, sometimes I think it's valuable to do majority
Sometimes.
and not always like
Unanimous.
Yeah, I
Oh.
think it's valuable, and I think it's
I think it's very important to do that, but I'm not sure it doesn't get lost on the person. See, a lot of times I do it because I want them to at least understand we weren't all convinced. There's a glimmer of hope in there for you, but
right.
most of the time, for some reason, I think that still goes over their head.
Well, I can tell you in a parole hearing, or even sometimes in a violation, even though I'm in there with you most of the time, and I think these two, Carla and Colby, can kind of vouch for this. Sometimes they're sweating it out while you're in deliberative, especially if it's
Really?
a long deliberative.
Really?
They're sweating it out.
Really?
Yes.
See, we don't
Especially
see
if
that
it's a
I
part
want
of
to see.
it.
Yeah.
I want to see the candid walk away going, missed it by that.
So they do vocalize.
Yes.
Do
that
spread
they-
it out. The attorneys have to come on a lot of the times and go, it's okay, them talking and taking this
It's a
long
good
might
thing.
be a good thing.
Or they'll,
They're discussing.
or
and
the
just relax, breathe. You
or
did
the
fine.
caseworker or PO will mute, and you'll see them having a
Mhm.
conversation.
Intense one.
Mm. Do you think having a majority as opposed to unanimous especially in a violation, have you seen any sort of influx on like the prisoners' rights attorneys going in for a reconsideration if they hear that?
Well, have you seen a reflux of reconsiderations come in before you?
Nope.
Because
I
you
think
see
it's-
them.
I didn't know if there was ever anything that
No,
looked
but the
at
one
was this case.
The one thing that I will, if for backing, for legal backing, if you are gonna if you're gonna be no matter what your decision is, you're gonna need to back up your decision, whether it's with the group, whether it's unanimous or not. You've got to have backing for your decision, and that's why the notes on SDMFs are very important. Having that finding clear for a violation, we've got to have a way to back up if there is a challenge.
And we did grant parole to somebody that same day. And then the three of us had a conversation after the hearings about how we were going to score SDMF, which I think was helpful too.
Along that vein,
Do what with it?
Code.
Oh, that's what I thought she said.
What did I say?
you said
Score.
Sorry.
if you are
Making
going
sure.
to go to the deferred non-majority thing, the only thing I would ask is make sure that your vote at the end of your SDMF form matches what you voted on the record, because
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Oh,
track that.
Especially for parole grants, because we don't have an,
Oh, I
especially if
didn't
it's
know
a
that.
field parole grant, we don't have a approval form, so we don't have that documented. So it's very important that we document the vote.
so if
on
we
that.
I've always
granted
been
parole
going-
to
Thought it was
somebody,
what the group.
No,
but I
Okay.
But you said
Denied
you
it?
didn't want to. You
whatever
were the one
your
that
vote
deferred.
is.
Your vote that's on the record. should be
Okay.
The vote on the
I
bottom
didn't
of your
realize that.
SDMF.
I just put,
Oh,
It's
that's
if they're
not-
granted parole, they're granted.
Oh, I'm not saying.
No,
if I
that's
did
not
this,
the
this is what I
hearing,
did.
that's your
I just
vote.
started
And that's
doing that.
exactly
Okay.
right
Oh, I
way it
didn't
is.
realize
That's
that.
it.
My bad.
Yeah, that's your vote.
That's good to know.
Has-
Okay,
I
yes.
I didn't know that.
Has PRO ever requested the vote in your
Yes,
reign?
yes. It's on the forms generally.
Yeah.
But I mean to identify.
It's
The
usually on the
dissenter-
form.
We identify it on the form, but in these cases where where we don't have an approval form, we aren't documenting it. So I
We'll
almost
put,
feel
like,
like we
2
need
to
to
1.
document it
No,
on the
And who
record,
defers?
don't we?
I do that in my own notes, but I'm wondering
Yes.
if prisoners' rights has ever requested who
Yes,
was the dissenter.
yes. And generally I can give them the form because it's on the form. I have PRO periodically ask me who they're
we don't
going up
tape
against
deliberative
for the
sessions.
hearing, so.
Yeah, they do. They like to shop for the board.
They do?
Yeah.
They prepare depending on who's on the hearings.
Well,
What
That's why consistency is so.
you know, it wasn't.
Well, now I
that
want to
many-
know what they think about it.
It wasn't that many years ago
When
when
they
there were
shop
people
them?
on the board that didn't matter what was said or done. They're just not granting anybody anything, period. And they just had that attitude. And we've come a long ways in our training and technical.
Especially
skills
different
and-
categories.
Yeah, and looking at things
Hmm.
with a different background is huge in that area. So
Oh,
we don't have that issue
I find
anymore.
It's hard to believe too, but attorneys on both sides, judge shop, they continue cases if a bad judge or a good judge is sitting on the
Until the next
bench.
quarter.
Well,
Or
they-
whenever they switch.
Yeah.
but I just don't see how the attorneys could try to
They're not shopping.
No.
shop.
So they're not shopping. They're not member shopping.
No,
They're
here they
preparing-
they don't get the shop, they
They're
get the board
preparing
and
their-
then they decide how
They're
they're gonna.
preparing their
prepare.
argument based on which members are sitting on the board.
Okay.
I honestly think they're chair shopping mostly. No offense to
Probably.
both of you. I think they're chair shopping because
It's how they present it. It's
this is how
exactly
they're
what you said.
presenting.
Like if
to you.
Pat's chairing, we can go more synthetic. If Dean is, we go more factual. These are hyper
I
hypothetical.
can talk more if Pat, I can talk more and present more if Pat's chairing. I can't so
'Cause I
much with Dean.
I'm not apt to shut them up as quickly.
So
Which
So
I
it's all,
should.
and that's all based on how we question, and they're just kind of.
they cannot, and just like any attorney and just like anybody, if you watch enough of these and you participate in enough,
This is why the SDMF process is so helpful.
You can
because
figure out where your
it brings
backgrounds
us-
are
Mhm.
and your biases.
And a little closer to being consistent on what issues we're looking at and how we're making our decision.
Absolutely. And that's why
I
I'm
did my
hoping
SDF.
we can get
Yeah,
some
that's
more,
one.
I'm hoping to get more of that violation work done, which kind of goes into my roundtable a little bit of looking
Okay.
at the reprimands and really mandating to DOC that if you're requesting to continue somebody on parole, bring it before the board as a reprimand.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
bring
Not
it
a
before as a
violation, right.
violation. Let the board decide if they
Yeah.
want to treat it as a violation or not.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Was my roundtable thought too, is I
Yeah.
really like that idea. And
Is it just me or is other people noticing, or maybe it's not really happening more, I'm seeing it more, that they're asking for board discretion?
It's because they don't want to weigh in.
They,
Does
they
that,
don't wanna make the
does that
decision.
feel like it's happening more?
I think
To
there are
any-
certain POs that do that on a regular basis.
I think I used to see it more than I do
Yeah.
now.
Oh, really?
I would agree with Pat when at these prepping forms, I used to see no suggestion whatsoever
Yeah.
or board discretion.
I don't know why it feels like it's happening a little bit more to
I
me
can
in the
tell
last
you-
month or
I
two.
can tell you that it's more site, it's probably more site specific, and why you're not seeing it fully as much as I think
I see
Carla's got the site.
So it's Carla's fault?
No, I could point to Sam if you
Yeah.
want me to. No,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just joking. I think it's more site specific, where some sites, they're just disgruntled. And they're just like, I think some supervisors have the attitude of no matter what I say, the board's gonna do whatever they wanna do anyway. I know, I'm just being
It's a bad
blunt.
I would hope so.
Right, but I'm just saying that
Mhm.
they just,
You know,
they're just a disgruntled site. And I think that's
Yeah.
where you see it a little bit more. And in some cases, I think some of the POs are at their wit's end. And they don't know exactly what to do, but they're also sympathetic too. They don't want to necessarily say continue on parole, but I think we're gonna start seeing more revocation probably as a recommendation from DOC just based on the public safety
Yeah.
stance that the governor's given them. And I think as the new commissioner comes in, I'm sure
Yeah.
all of you have seen that.
Yep.
I think they'd probably take an even harder stance on public safety.
It just makes it, to me, when that comes in that way, I sometimes if it's an on the fence like that one, it helps to sort of frame what they're asking in my mind as a starting place. Like if I know that this is what they're asking for, I kind of work through that and say, does this seem like it makes sense as
Yeah.
opposed
do it
to,
work.
or if they're saying revocation, do they really have the basis for that? And when I just see nothing, sometimes it's kind of, I feel like it's.
Well, have you also
Maybe out
noticed,
there to
I've
find
also
it a little
noticed
bit.
a lot of shift too, as I'm doing forms, because the initial recommendation is revocation in a lot of cases, but by the time they come to the hearing,
I've seen that too.
they've worked out a plan with prisoners' rights,
Mhm.
or they've been
Yeah.
released they were incarcerated, they were released on bail, they've got their act together.
Yeah.
And it's changed. So I think it's that too, and a lot of information.
Mhm.
If I was a board member, what would bother me more is when you get to a hearing and you ask the PO, what's your recommendation? They go revocation and
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And it's like, okay, well, what's your reasoning? Same thing with continue. And I think that's the same thing with the discretion is the same kind of thing. I don't know. It's
Mhm.
just kind of what I see as the outsider watching 90% of these.
A lot of
hearings.
times I notice Bob will speak up and say, you know,
Can you
this is,
explain?
Yes.
can you elaborate on
Yeah,
that?
I've seen
Because
that.
they just revocation and they sit there. And Bob has spoken up a lot and said,
Yeah.
can you?
And there are a lot of them, and Bob seems to know which ones
Yes.
do a good job of
Yes.
explaining their rationale.
Oh, some of them are incredible.
And it's most of you have seen, we've seen Bob more. We'll start seeing John again more. John has
Oh.
been, I think he took the bar again.
Passing the
the
bar.
beginning of this week. So depending on his results will depend on how much we see him. But
Yeah.
he was taking it again, I think Monday and Tuesday this
Wasn't
week.
Emily in the same situation?
Emily was allowed to come in without taking the bar. She just had to wait for Vermont to accept it because she was in practice in New Hampshire. John had taken a few years off, I believe.
Okay.
So he wasn't in current practice. So he had to take the bar again.
Oh, wow.
Good. Anything else? Good discussion?
Yeah.
Shall we move on to the review?
Yes.
It's 11:45.
Yeah, I think we're gonna probably, well, good thing Wayne brought bagels. Does anybody want anything besides bagels? Because I can.
No, we've got
We can
munchkins
send run
too.
out. There's vending machines too, but I can run out. We can run out and get anything.
I'm fine.
Oh, good.
I'm good.
No pickles.
No, we wouldn't be able to eat them anyway. We'd have to take
Well,
them
no,
home.
she cooks the alcohol out.
Oh, okay.
We met on Friday for a few hours.
Yeah.
So I got to know Angela a little bit more.
So she takes the alcohol out of
But
the
the
pickles for us.
computer is now acting. I didn't have IT look at her computer and it's now acting up at her house. So she's going to have to come back. So I don't know if she'll be on Tuesday or not.
And that's the one I took
Yep.
home.
So
You broke it. It's your.
Well, mine does it every once in a while too. Not even hooked up to the docking station or whatever that.
It might not be the docking station, but I thought he was looking at internet or something at your
Yeah.
house.
anyone else having any issue? I've had none.
Yeah.
Well, the common denominator with the two laptops
Is
is
people?
Pat.
Yes, it is. As soon as it was fine until I plugged it into the docking station.
It was fine until she touched it.
Yep. And then I
Well,
got the
no,
blue
it-
screen and I wanted to scream.
Well, no,
Blue
I thought
screen
that
of
one
death.
wasn't fine until I thought that one did it immediately without you plugging into the docking station, and then you moved 10 feet and it worked.
Yes. But where it was giving me the problem, I'd been there for 2 years. And all of a sudden it gave me a problem.
You're on Comcast too, right? Oh,
Change the card.
I don't know because I'm not the one who does it. I live with my niece and I think she has Comcast. I don't know what she has. I never asked. I don't pay the bill. So don't worry about it. I think it's Comcast.
yeah, that's what I have. Never had any problems.
Okay. And she works in the basement and the router's upstairs. From here to that wall from me. There's never been a problem. And all of a sudden there's a problem. But if I take my computer and move it to like where Katie is,
Get a little bit closer.
yeah,
For the
but
router.
I'm the router is from here to the wall from me.
Something's not right.
And it's never given me a hard time till just recently. That's why I thought it was the computer.
Might be the modem.
No, we tested the modem, didn't we?
I don't know. I wasn't on the call.
We checked.
Yeah, Dean, IT Dean.
IT
Had
Dean.
her restart her modem and her router and everything, had
Yeah.
her restart everything. And she said it worked fine for a little bit.
Yeah.
You ever check the speed on the modem?
That wouldn't cause a blue screen.
I don't even know what
It wouldn't
the
cause it to
world
not-
that is.
It's causing the computer not
No,
to
but
boot
if
up.
it's fluctuating a lot, I wonder if.
But it shouldn't, I wouldn't think that would affect your boot process on your computer because you should be able to boot your computer without being on the internet.
Mhm.
Because it's not even allowing it to, she hits the power button and it just won't come up. It's not a login.
Something's hanging up in the
Yeah,
current
it's
process.
Windows. It says it's Windows won't open or something like that.
But I thought you changed computers.
No,
Oh,
she took the spare that
so now you
Angela
got yours
has.
back?
Yes.
I
he
came back
fixed
the
it.
next day.
So you've got your original one now?
Yes.
So it's probably something in.
And now the one I
yeah,
had.
Well, it might be in her account because now the one she took of Angela's is doing it at Angela's house.
Ah,
So
you're not touching mine.
I know.
Does anybody else have Comcast?
I do.
Do you?
I don't.
I have
That's all I'm
Xfinity.
allowed to have. I live in Montpelier.
Oh,
I'm not-
Xfinity and Comcast are all the same.
Yeah.
Then
I don't
that's
know
what I have.
if any of you experienced a significant rate change recently with Comcast. I did. And so I called them up to ask about it. And they have a new plan now that's guaranteed for 3 years at $65 a month.
Oh.
And even though I've been a Comcast user for about 40 years, they said, no problem. Switch you over to that. But
Really?
And it's the
What's
internet.
bundle package too?
I don't even
Is it
know
the
what-
bundle package, like the internet, TV?
it's all I have is internet with them, but
Okay.
it's what they have a 3-year promotional package that they're offering
Wow.
to existing users. So
I'll have
Does it
to
have a
tell
gig?
Denise about it.
I get the gig.
Yeah, see, I have to have unlimited because Josh works.
Oh,
at
no,
home
no, the
sometimes
gig
too,
is the
and-
speed. There's no limit on
Okay,
it. Yeah.
because I had to switch, I had to beef up, because I only have internet through Comcast too.
Yeah.
We stream everything.
Yeah.
But I had to go with their unlimited package and pay out the nose for it because we use so much
What-
data.
What are you paying?
Like 130,
Yeah,
140.
well, that's where I was going, and they switched over to the 65, the no limits and the highest speed.
I'm joking.
Is it called something? It's just,
I mean, the package?
Yeah.
No, it's just internet only, but it's some promotion they're running, and it's guaranteed the
I have
rate
to
for
tell
3
her about
years.
it because I don't know what she pays.
Because if I can cut my bill in half like that.
Yeah,
It's
yes,
worth
sir,
it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I just got to make sure we can not have a cap. I hate caps. We use a lot.
coding review.
So what I would like to do is just go through every domain and make sure that we're all coding the same way and make sure that we all are using the same guide, because I think there's 2 guides floating around, the cheat
Really?
sheet that I did originally, and then this coding guide that I've been giving new members, and I think I gave the board members. Yeah, so that's the cheat sheet from original. So what I want to do is I want to update this, which is the guide that's 14 pages, which is fine.
Mhm.
And then we can get rid of the cheat sheet guide, which is what you've got too, Pat, which is fine because it's all in here, but I
Okay.
just want to make sure we're,
I love this.
yes. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and we can do the short version too. I don't mind doing the short version, but I just want to make sure we get an updated version and we're all using the
This
same
one
thing.
is from May of last year.
Yeah. Yeah, so whatever notes we have, the domain should all still be the same. I just want to make sure I get it all jotted down, and I will give you a copy before you leave. And then that way we're all using the same thing. Just making sure, because I've noticed in the last few months, wait a minute, I've been doing it this way. Well, my notes say it this way. Let's just
Yep.
true it up.
Yep.
So do you want to give us the new one to go through?
No, I want you to use whatever you've been using with your notes on it.
Okay,
And that's what we're going to go through because it should have the same information.
okay.
And then at the end, I'll give you a clean copy. Does that make sense?
No, but I'll follow along.
Use that.
He wants,
Use that.
he wants the clean copy right now.
No,
Yeah, I do too, because I didn't get the note that I was supposed to bring my book. So now I can make some clean notes on this clean copy.
Okay.
So criminal and parole history. So the code, we're just going to go through the coding. So for this, it has aggravating, the extent to which an individual has early onset of criminal behaviors, multiple crimes with short intervals between crimes that escalate in seriousness or multiple breaches.
Mhm.
Does anybody have any notes on that? So
The only-
as we go
the
through
only
each one,
Note I've got on that category is that this is from their history. Not
Right.
current.
It's historical.
mitigating no prior criminal history or minor infractions with no escalation and long intervals between crimes.
Mhm.
Neutral if multiple crimes are minor with no escalation of severity and long intervals between. So this is history,
Mhm.
which I think criminal history, I don't think we really struggle with this domain
No.
at all.
Just history again.
Ability to control behavior.
And that's history.
Yes, this is
Also.
history as well. Anybody have any notes on this one?
Nope.
But this should all be the same. Aggravating, the extent to which an offender reflected poor self-control at the time of the crime is indicated by one or more of the self-control factors. Mitigating, provides long-term goals and is able to explain consequences of actions, displays pro-social self-regulating behaviors at the time of the crime, did not reflect poor self-control. I think these are all the same.
Yep.
Okay. Responsivity or programming. This is where I think we just
Got lots of notes.
yes. Okay. I'm gonna let you go.
Okay. Aggravating. I've got the individual has not completed programming based on medium to high risk needs and responsibility. And then the in parentheses is not changed. And then at the end I have, if programming is to be determined, then it's aggravating. If it's low risk, then it's neutral.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Anybody else? All right. Institutional behavior. We're going to be going over institutional behavior this afternoon in the booster.
Right.
I do have some notes about this from last week's booster too. And this is where the one thing that really came out of the booster around any of these, as long as we are consistent in how we are doing things, as long as we keep with the spirit of the code, like we were setting timeframes, especially around institutional behavior, as long as we're all doing the same thing, it keeps the integrity of the tool. So some places are looking at institutional behavior in a 3 to 5 year period, where we're looking at it potentially in a much shorter period. So I just wanted to, so you may hear in the booster this afternoon different opinions on like the time frame and so forth. Another thing that will come out is like the severity. Under aggravating, it says disciplinary reports for serious misconduct at any point during the current period of incarceration or recent misconduct, regardless of severity.
Right.
So that's the other thing is in this, you're only getting reported out on the major B's, major A's and B's usually on the parole summaries.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we've defined severity more as majors, correct? Or are we including minors? So I'm just
I've got if they've had 2 or more in the last year, then it's aggravating.
Whether it's major or minor.
Is it whether it's major or minor?
That's the way I interpret it.
Okay. I just want to put it to say that. Let me actually. I'm really typing this.
Because it says, or recent misconduct of any kind. So I don't decide whether it's.
Oh,
But we had sort of decided it had to be within the last year.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So let me just read this as let me save a copy. I knew there was going to be points where. So for aggravating, disciplinary reports for serious misconduct. So do we want to say within the last year or at any point during the current period of incarceration?
I mean, and or?
Disciplinary reports for serious misconduct within the last year or at any point during the current period of incarceration if less than 1 year. Because you could see somebody
I
that's
do the
less
1
than 1
year.
year. So I'm just thinking if somebody's only been there for 6 months, you're going to look at 6 months. You're not looking at a year.
Right. Right.
And then, or recent misconduct regardless of severity. Okay. Perfect. Mitigating no disciplinary reports for misconduct plus behavior that goes above and beyond rule compliance, notorious behavior.
Yep.
This is a hard one to meet.
I've had it once
Couple
recently.
times when you get
Yeah.
reports from the PO or the
Yeah.
caseworker
Yeah,
about
not
how
very
well
often, but once in a
No,
while.
once in a great while.
Prisoner, he's in the reward program, he's in
Runs
this
the law
job,
library.
runs-
Yeah.
Southern State, the honor storm. Neutral, no misconduct, low-level administrative disciplinary reports, early incarceration, basic rule compliance for 2+ years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Any notes on community behavior?
Well, didn't we say at one point if someone was incarcerated and then got released and they've been out for a period of time, like 6 months, then we consider the community behavior rather
whatever's their
than the
most recent
institutional.
supervision.
Yeah.
If they're in the community on
Yes.
furlough, then it's that.
But some of them they were only released last week.
Right. So I think that's why we have the 2 on the form. So you're going to look at what was their institutional.
Right.
And then you're also going to look at what have they been doing in the last week?
So I've been looking at what their status is when I'm reviewing their case.
Yep.
And using that. So
Are you leaving one section blank?
well, it's not one section.
Yeah,
it's
no,
the same
it's
section.
combined.
Is it the same section?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
You have to choose
But
one or the other.
If the
Okay, never
person's
mind.
only been out a week, they haven't proved themselves. So why would use institutional? Even though they're out in the community, I can't base my decision on their community supervision
Right.
because they really don't have any.
So we need to define that.
I tend to go back, like because I've definitely seen some of those where they've literally only been out on furlough
Yeah.
for like a little bit, and some like I even go back if it's more than if they just got released like 6 months. But if I'm looking back and seeing DRs, a ton of them, but their last 3 months that they've been on furlough, they've done well. I've kind of scored it more as
Averaged them out.
neutral, but then put it in the notes section, like during incarceration,
Yes.
furloughed for.
Yeah.
I just use the community supervision report if they've been out for
Okay.
any significant time. A couple days or a week, yeah, I get that. But if they've been out 2 or 3 months, they've been established in the community, they've got programming if they're going to have it.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, so we need
Yeah.
to just define that a little bit. So
The
we're all
time
good.
frame,
Yes.
3 months. It's a good indicator.
Because I don't want you all to be using a different lens, which it sounds like you all are. Because then we're not.
That one is the most difficult for me to try to. Do I look at this if they've
The
been out
notes I had put in there is it's their most recent behavior.
Right. So the question is,
So their most recent behavior, if they're in the community, is what's happened while they've been in the community.
But what if that's only been?
Yeah, but if it's been a
3 weeks.
couple months, that's a fair amount of time to
Well, I think
evaluate
that's what
something.
MJ's asking.
that's what I'm
Yes,
asking.
she wants the
for.
time
3
frame.
months the most
So-
recent, is 6 months the most recent?
Is it
What's
2 months?
Recent.
I know, but I think 3 months is plenty of time to evaluate somebody in the community.
I agree.
Okay. That's
3
fine.
months.
I just want to put it in here for coding purposes. You will look at
Previous
their
3 months.
current status. And if they've been in the community for 3 months, you're going to
But-
factor in their community behavior.
And
If
there's
it's-
nothing wrong with putting in the notes, as Katie's indicated,
Mhm.
that, the transition.
They've only been
from-
out for such and such.
We also have in there, e.g., work release furloughs or prior release on parole during the current period of incarceration. So does that
That's
not
in the new
become a
one.
hybrid
Interesting.
in community behavior? That's e.g.
I mean,
I believe it becomes a hybrid at that point.
well, realistically, to me, it is a high, because also you're looking at too of, we've had the discussion around this domain too of looking at somebody who's only been incarcerated for a month, but they were incarcerated due to a parole violation or a furlough violation.
Yeah.
You're going to take into that community behavior
Right.
into your coding. So I think it's hard to that's why I want to be careful. I want to look at more of, are we looking at the last year, whether, and it could be a mix of both. And that's why I was trying to get at kind of setting, you want to look at the last year regardless and look at both of their behaviors and kind of factor the two together is kind of what I'm thinking, more than saying it's either one or the other, because I don't think it's easy to say one or the other with a lot of these people.
The only challenge to that is you have specific criteria for both.
Right.
And
And that's why that's why with the team, and this may be something for the community of practice, I was trying to tease out if we could separate these two because we see so many going in and out so frequently. That might be another question to bring up, because I think
This is one of the two we're doing today.
we're just doing institutional today, because I asked about community at the last one. They're just doing institutional today.
So it's just on us that it's together.
That's a good question, because I was asking, because I asked that,
Okay.
because the way the coding was done originally was
We will push them this afternoon then.
Yeah. I'd have a hard time if I had to mesh the two and work out in my mind, well, where do I put them? Aggravating or neutral or mitigating?
I find it easy to choose one or the other.
I do too.
And I also worked with Ashley Kuntz from APAI today.
Yeah.
I've made some people got the link, some people didn't get the links to the training this morning. You're all signed up for the training, so you all, but we are just going to join on one computer on there and just do it, everybody together. I thought I'd let everybody know that I worked that all out in email with Ashley this morning.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry to be a pain. She goes, no, you're not a pain.
Good. So do you want to leave this one kind of
I
open?
think we leave it, and I think we kind of did. I think we were looking at the last year. We're looking at what we've got on paper and just going from there for right now. Offender change. I don't like this. You say it every month.
I know. This is the hardest one for me.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think we're doing offender change this afternoon too.
Yep.
I have no notes on this one.
So a couple of my notes from the last one is in part of the mitigating, they were saying that they're showing evidence that they are choosing release plans that are conducive to change, that they understand the risk areas for them. So they're really showing that evidence that they have taken the program, they've really digested some that they can now identify, hey, I shouldn't be around this population, or that they're really showing, they can talk it in their communication with you. They're showing that they're understanding more of,
and not putting it into actual practice yet.
You don't have to put it in actual practice because most of them haven't had the opportunity to, but they can articulate it to you.
Okay.
And I think that's maybe where you struggle with this one, is because they're not in practice. It's easy when you get a furlough case before you and they're actually out in the community doing well.
But it's easy for them to say, oh yeah, I'm going to stay away from, I plan on staying away from all my old buddies. Or I'm going to do this. I'm going to sign up for programming.
So I think the follow-up questions to some of that are, okay, and I think Sam and Katie especially are good at teasing this out a little bit of
how are you going to do that?
How are you going to stay away from them? What are those areas? What are those? So what's with your buddies? Why do you need to stay away from your buddies? That kind of stuff, to really show what they're identifying in themselves, that wait a minute, if I'm around Joe,
I often ask, how are you going to stay away from them, or can you say no to them if they come around you?
Right, but to tease out some more of that.
Like when they just say simply, oh, I'm just going to stay home.
Yes,
So that I
that's a
avoid-
big one.
Or I'm just not gonna drink. Or and it's like,
So how do you
Mm,
code
so
that?
that's when I really kind of tease in and it's like, well, like, let's be realistic. That's not, or then they'll say, well, I don't really think I have a drinking problem, or I don't really think, and I'm like, so you, based on this, you don't see an issue with that, and that usually kind of opens up the floodgates to really see how
If they
much
get it.
change talk is really there.
So
Okay.
Sometimes they're
between this discussion, if you got mitigating evidence exists to show the individual successfully completed required programming and is displaying behavior change, or neutral. Although reports indicate successfully completed required program, there is no evidence of behavior change as a result. So in this scenario, how do you code that one?
okay.
Neutral.
So the neutral. So I have a
I do.
I have a note about neutral too, and that they were really saying the individual cannot tell you about the red flags triggers for them. They got the information from the program, but they
Right.
can't go into the details about it. And it's really going into those. And I think sometimes their questions, if they fill them out,
Gives you an
gives you
insight.
in some
Mhm.
insight.
Those are
And they
very
go,
helpful.
Huge.
Yeah, but
There's a ton of
even
insight.
until they can apply their change, they haven't changed.
Well, to me, I look at, based on what they're saying, is it realistic to think they're on track to be able to apply it?
This isn't about the, so offender change isn't about them changing. It's about them moving
thought
towards change.
process.
Their thought process is moving. It's not that they're exhibiting the change. It's about,
Then why does it say there is no evidence of behavior change as a result?
evidence that so I'm just reading some of the training pieces of it that's not in the coding. Evidence that the offender thought processes and criminal thinking has changed. Generally, the offender has benefited from participation and completion of programming. Review of reports and evaluations to determine the following indicators of pro-social thinking, decisions, and behavior. Whether they accept responsibility for their crime and their criminal behavior, ability to explain consequences of behavior, use of cognitive skills to make decisions, they're thinking of consequences before making decisions, pro-social behaviors that include pro-social support group in avoidance of trigger situations. So I think they're able to start identifying this stuff. They're able to start thinking about it. They may not be showing it. They may be showing it because somebody could have been committing a bunch of DRs in the facility.
And now they're
And
not.
now they're not. They may have not wanted to get involved in anything in the facility. Now they're working. Now they're participating. They may be going to
Mhm.
AA or NA or something. It's showing that they're working towards that change. That's the evidence. It's not that they've actually 100% changed.
Talking the talk, but nobody knows if they're going to walk that talk. But we're supposed to
But are they able
evaluate them on making that walk. There is no evidence of behavior change. No, I heard what you said about.
But you're not getting it, Wayne. You're not.
You're right.
You're reading the words for the sake of reading the words.
No, I'm reading black and white.
Okay, this isn't black and white. None of this is black and white.
Oh, okay. Let me make a note of
Criminal
that.
justice system is not black and white as much as everybody would love it to be.
Let me make a note of that. Okay.
To use your analogy, are they attempting to?
They can't. They don't have the opportunity to apply until they're out. Other than, as MJ said, maybe their behavior has improved because they have a goal of getting out and they're intending AA and NA, but to actually demonstrate change, I'm sorry,
Well, I think
until they have the ability to demonstrate it.
Well, there's no
I'm not
doubt.
seeing it.
There's no doubt that it's easier to code it if they're already on furlough,
Right.
because they've been out in the community and they
Mm.
kind of show. Are they attending what they're supposed to attend? Like, are they following up on the things they were mandated?
Especially if they're not going to do programming until they get out.
Right.
Yeah.
And if
so
they're
there's no
non-listed
question.
offender,
Yeah.
throw
I mean,
that
there's-
one right up in the air.
It's definitely easier if they're already out on furlough to code that. But I think what, I don't remember who said it, but reading the insight of the offender on the paper they write, like I get really annoyed when they don't have a paper attached that they answered those questions.
We've seen it a lot more that they have the paperwork.
Yeah.
They get the questions, it's whether or
yes.
not they choose to fill
Right.
it out.
It's up to
And
them.
Most of them have been doing it
And with Chittenden,
Yeah.
in depth.
and with Chittenden, they're reading it to you at the hearings.
Yeah.
They're not.
To me, that's the most important thing.
Then that's.
I mean,
the
it's
first
not the most, I shouldn't say that. It's not the most important thing, but to me, it provides so much insight.
I've asked that question and I encourage you to. Were you presented with a questionnaire? Did you have an opportunity to fill a questionnaire out? And no, never got one. Or no, I chose not to. There's a big difference right there.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know though, because
before you condemn not getting one, I would want to make sure they had the opportunity.
right. But I also think
I can't read.
I don't know if I want to initially, if they say
Yes, I know.
I chose not to.
I can't read the right.
There's some that really struggle
With writing.
with
skills.
writing and
Yeah.
reading and thought processes on it. So I think I don't.
Well, and then
That
if
might
use
be
the
where
buzzword
some of
here, then tease that out. Hey, I understand you have a difficulty with this, but how would you answer this question? Use the question that you want the answer to off that form. Let them answer verbally.
Yeah.
So how are we doing offender change? Are we making notes on it? Because now I'm lost. And it's 12:10.
Yes. Thank you, Sam.
Is that
Sorry.
one that we're doing this afternoon?
We are doing it this afternoon.
Okay. So that might help too.
I just didn't know if
I read you the notes that I just,
Yes.
that I took.
That's pretty
Yeah.
self-explanatory
Yeah,
to me.
it is to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I think that it's, what are they showing you in their answers to the questions that you're asking? We are asking.
I don't
And
think
what
it's
are they
realistic
exhibiting?
to expect that you're gonna have people tell you and then be able to,
Demonstrate it.
Right.
well, demonstrate it or prove that that's what
Mhm.
they're doing. But
Right.
if they're at least articulating it,
Yes.
that's a good step.
That's
Yeah.
exactly.
Are we still going on this?
No, I think offender change, I think we just.
Are we going on release plan?
Yes, release plans. Thank you, Sam.
I got no notes on that one.
No, that's,
And I think the other thing to note with release plan too is that this is their plan.
Right.
Is it
realistic?
realistic?
Yeah.
Some
that's
of
key.
these individuals may have some ideas of a release plan, but it may not, you may see a lot more neutrals in both of these two.
mhm.
And also, it's okay that as long as we're not having the aggravating to mitigating between board members,
Right.
it's okay to have the neutrals to
Neutrals,
mitigating or neutrals to aggravating.
Mhm.
Okay.
That one, I think the release plan for me is like one of the easier ones.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That one and the criminal history.
Yeah.
Like, because I looked like what is, especially those are the easiest kind of questions to ask too. Like,
One of the,
what is this? What's going to be required? What's going to be the follow-up?
I think for me, the tricky part on the release plan is if we're filling this out, they're in an interrupt. So DOC is not
Yes.
planning anything
Right.
and they give us a plan.
Yeah.
I know.
Where do you go with
I
it?
know.
I go
Yes.
neutral.
Yes. I always just write in there, like I tend to write the notes in the note section of that one.
2-year
That
interrupt. but
currently
there's a
serving
plan.
interrupt. DOC is not doing any.
Right.
Yeah.
So
current
that's when I
release
usually
planning.
put neutral. Or depending on which is the strongest.
Are we doing case specific factors?
I don't think, these are just, these are out of the blue stuff, and I
Okay.
don't think there really is many case-specific factors, and I would not,
I don't put a ton of stuff in that one.
and I'd say community, victims pretty straightforward.
Mhm.
In community, I think it can be a little bit more straightforward too, depending on, especially if we have case staffings when they're looking at these cases
So
the stronger lenses.
on victim consideration, when we talked about this the last time, I made a note that RSN cases should have something in here.
There should be a victim involved in an RSN case because it's a
Right.
victim.
So there should be some
crime.
information in here.
Yeah. And most of the individuals that you're all seeing now are mostly listed offenders. There's not very many non-listed offenders, and listed offenders are victim crimes. It's right in the victim statute. So there should be something. I know that our victim participation, either by the victim or the VSS, has been up over the last year. And I think community considerations, RSN cases could fall into here as well.
Yeah, I got that note as well. Yeah.
And that's where a case staffing report may indicate if there's strong community support or not support or any of that. Anything else on this?
The only other thing I know I mentioned it last time was restitution.
I don't know how restitution really plays.
Where do you put it?
Yeah.
Where do you note it?
Well, I've been in my notes, I put it in under case specific factors.
Okay.
Even though it doesn't weigh strongly
Right.
against or for granting parole,
It's
it
there.
is specific in that case.
Why wouldn't it be in parole plan?
I was thinking release plan.
I plan on paying that off. I'm gonna contact her as soon as I get out the door.
I could see it coming into as one of the release plan factors,
Every time.
but
Should we put that in our notes then and be consistent with it?
Sure.
yeah.
Well, it could be definitely if you're kind of looking for, like, if you're on the fence in release planning and they're on furlough, and you can go in under their restitution and see that as soon as they hit furlough, they started paying. Like that, to me.
That's not
going to happen.
accurate.
No, I'm saying if they did, like that,
If they
that
did,
might be
then
something
yeah.
to score in either offender change or something that shows.
I guess I'm still not sure why it wouldn't be a case specific factor.
I honestly think restitution doesn't fit into any of this, and I'll be honest with you. I don't.
Well, if you want to make it case
I think it should be a
specific, then
note
let's get the other side of the coin.
I don't think
Because we never see people that have had ordered restitution and they're paid in full. We only see the deadbeats.
Yeah.
So
No,
if we're going to do it, let's see every case, a restitution was ordered, and he's paid religiously every month. He's paid in full.
No, but that's not, Wayne, if we're evaluating somebody for release and restitution is an issue for them, where is it noted?
Well, that's what I said.
It's
If
not about
we're going to
whether
do
they
this,
paid
we
it in
put
the
it in the
past.
release plan. You had it in the other, and I'm going, okay, if you're going to judge this as, because we can't score it. If you're going to code it, I want to see the guy that's paid everything. So is he mitigating? Because he's paid all his restitution. He's followed the letter of the law.
Dean, are you using the restitution in towards any of your decision making?
No, I'm just putting it in the risk. I'm putting it in case specific factors.
That they owe restitution.
No restitution.
Right, because I thought I thought case specific was only for if we were using it as a consideration factor in our decision.
Yeah.
But if we're not using it in our decision, then we shouldn't be putting it in, right? By that logic?
Case specific factors not accounted for in other domains.
Okay, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
So neutral, so in coding for case specific factors, neutral is there's no unique case factors.
Right.
And then in his notes, he's putting restitution.
And the amount.
And the amount. That I think is okay. If we were coding it aggravating or mitigating in case specific factors, then I would see a problem.
Because we don't know. I mean.
Right.
But
I'm noting that they owe restitution. Here's the amount. I've just got it coded. That's all.
And it's more of a note than a code.
Right, which it's noted in the
Mhm.
file anyway.
And you're not factoring that in your decision.
I honestly don't see that it needs to, I don't see how it even plays into the SDMF form. But that's just my,
Well, I could make the argument that if they had $100,000 in restitution, they were on parole before and they never paid a nickel. And now they're coming up for parole again. They still owe 100,000 in restitution.
but what,
Should
how
be
does that,
noted.
How do you
that
account
to
for
me
that?
would be more, that to me would
History?
be more,
Pretty neat.
Number two.
Behavior change.
would behavior change,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Number two, ability to
Res-
control behavior.
Ability to control,
Aren't we supposed to be risk? We don't.
That's historical.
You can't violate on restitution solely, so.
But this isn't about violation, right?
no, but,
Right,
but if you're,
I'm
I
not,
know that. Yeah.
I am not disagreeing, I'm
Yeah,
just,
yeah, I know.
but
Devil advocating. They made a $50 payment on 100,000. Is that?
They're good to go.
It's a start.
Just saying, they made their first payment.
3 years ago.
if,
Change,
okay,
there's change.
no, I want to work this out
Okay.
because I don't want you coding this neutral under case specific factors every
Right.
time and nobody else coding it
Right.
because then our integrity of our
Okay.
is.
I get that. Do we not call
But
it?
but is does paying or not paying restitution predict their future criminal behavior?
No.
no.
Good.
And if it does, where does it? What factor? Because this is predicting their future criminal behavior. That's the goal. When you parole somebody, you should be looking. One of the major factors is predicting whether or not they're going to commit a new crime and if they're going to be a law-abiding citizen.
I think not paying restitution that you owe goes to your character as to whether or not you're a law-abiding citizen.
I don't know if it's that black and white though.
I was
Is
gonna
that
say,
kind of a
no,
statement?
No,
Pat?
I'm just talking. I'm just putting it out there because I'm like, if I don't pay my phone bill, does it mean I'm going to go commit a crime?
Yeah, am I gonna not go over
Theft
the
of services.
You won't have a phone.
You
No,
did.
but you know what I mean.
You did.
I do.
Right. No, but I'm just saying.
Yes, I know
Are
what you
going
mean.
to
Well,
commit
as
a
long
crime
as she
to
continues
pay
to
the
use the
bill.
phone.
Right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's more of, am I going to commit a crime to pay my bills?
Well, that's what I'm saying. When I say it could. So if this guy was really feeling the pressure,
So that's
is
why
he
I'm,
to commit a crime to pay
Well,
his
so
restitution?
that's why I'm trying to look
The
at it as
difference
a bigger,
is it's a condition of parole that we put on
right?
and we get a report. So it's just part of the,
It's part of the case, but I think the
and
SDMF
it's being
is.
ignored otherwise. That's all.
Well, and then
How's it
that
being-
begs a bigger
how is it
question.
being ignored? How's it being ignored otherwise?
Well, we're not using it in any part of our coding.
I mean, the bigger question is,
So
it's just a threat.
here's a question.
Could be,
So why do we have it? Because it's unenforceable.
Okay, so wait a second. I want to back up because you just sprung something.
Okay.
SDMF or not SDMF? Do you base your parole decision, whether to parole somebody or not, based on how much restitution they have, or if they have restitution?
No.
No,
Not all by
Same
itself.
thing true with violate. We don't
So-
violate based
So
on
your
how much they owe.
SDMF is helping you decide whether you're going to parole somebody or not. So how does that restitution factor into that?
other than condition setting.
Yeah,
It's a unique factor.
And why do we have the condition if we can't enforce it?
Well, that's a statutory thing.
yeah,
It's
the
important.
condition is not statutory.
Well, how's it statutory that it be in a
Enforcement is.
parole
Yeah,
condition?
Pardon me?
Statutory that it's a parole?
No, no, no,
condition?
no.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Why do we even have that? I understand and I think it's important, but when you really look at it hard, why do we have a condition that's unenforceable?
Restitution.
no.
There's a whole bunch of laws out there that are unenforceable. that
Yeah,
you-
yeah, I know.
No.
It's
All
not.
right.
I don't.
We'd never get anything back. We can at least tell them.
like Dean is the only one coding restitution, so we need to make a decision if we're coding restitution or not, because it sounds like the chair is the only one coding it.
I can share it. You can if you want to.
No, he can't, and we have to do it as a majority.
I'm happy to put it at the end of my report.
I'm just saying, if it's not considered in part of your decision, like if the SDMF wasn't here and you were just listening to cases and restitution is not part of your consideration, why put it in here?
Well,
That's
prior to
supposed
SDMF, during our hearings, and I'm taking notes,
Mhm.
in my notes would be that they owe restitution.
But it wouldn't.
And now
Make
my
your
notes
decision.
consist of my SDMF form.
Mhm.
So I'm just looking for a place to put in my report that there is restitution owed.
So also, just the restitution doesn't go anywhere, so it's part of the permanent file too. So I think that's the other thing of whether or not it's in your notes or not. I mean, because before we didn't keep your notes.
No, I know.
So I just,
But at the end of the hearing, when we granted parole, as we do now, we tell them if they owe restitution and they need to do blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
So at the end of, I have my conditions and then I have restitution. So I don't need to code it. I can just put it at the end.
yeah, I want to make sure
I'm still
we
gonna
keep the
put it.
integrity of it.
Yeah.
Anything
Good.
else?
I have to make a phone call before 1:00.
Are we
So-
good?
I think we're good, and I don't have discrepancies for SCMF.
No discrepancies?
Well, no, I didn't get to it.
Oh, I was like,
So we
really?
were that good?
We did that good?
Get to it.
No
We'll go
way.
through next month. We'll go through them.
I was excited. I thought you said we didn't do
I
any.
put the August and September schedule on here if we needed to talk about them. I don't know, so I just stuck it on.
I
here.
got all of your notes and I posted the schedule and everything. Just make sure you get me your expense accounts tonight and I'll work on it.
I'm going to do mine right now, or send it to you right now.
I emailed mine to myself yesterday.
I can work
Good
on it
night.
right now. I just gotta make a phone call.
Yes,
And Dean, I
You
have.
want to put
Angela.
a
Yeah,
form in
sure.
here?
I'll try to send it to you.
So I have one last thing.
Oh, would you like to put a or
So I wanted to pitch something to all of you. I put future agendas on here. I would like some help with agenda setting. And I was hoping maybe every month we could possibly have at least one other person try to come up with a topic to talk about, because I feel like we're doing roundtable, but I think each of you has, like today, Wayne, you went into citations and gave a great feel about citations.
Oh, I'll do all the mental health stuff you want.
No, but I'm just thinking, I think it would be nice every month for somebody, a board member to step up and have maybe an agenda item. I just think it would be helpful. And maybe, I don't know about all of you, but I'm burnt out a little bit in trying to set these agendas every month for all of you and come up with stuff to talk about. And I want to make sure these are meaningful meetings, and I want to talk about the stuff that you all want to talk about.
I'm talking about restitution.
Yeah.
All right, Wayne's got August. Listen, give me a little bit to prepare for this.
So it's helpful, I think, for me anyway, and I know you and I talk about it during the month, and I make notes of things that want to come up, and usually you put them on the agenda and we go from there. So I would agree. If anyone else has a thought along the way, make a note of it.
I gotta find the notes.
And then,
Thank God MJ remembered a couple things I said that I made notes and I'm going,
Yeah.
what was that I told we ought to do?
Shoot us emails.
Yes,
Yeah.
and when
Put
you,
stuff on
or
the
tell us
agenda.
if it comes up in a hearing, mention
Right.
it to whoever,
Right.
and we keep the agenda running all month.
I keep a notepad right in front of the computer and just jot some things down as they come up. Like the reprimand thing that MJ talked about. I think that's a great idea. If they're going to focus on the outcome being a reprimand, why go through the whole violation process just for the sake of bringing in the attorneys? Good.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
third, fourth.
Is everyone in favor?
For
Aye.